Alex Jones, in his latest defamation trial, has been ordered to pay nearly $1 billion, $965 million, to the families in the Sandy Hook the circumstance. And I'm shocked. I'm outraged. $1 billion. That's it. It should be a gajillion, but majillion trillion. Because let's be real. $1 billion is a meaningless number. Not only does Alex Jones not have it, but it's a ridiculous number to award someone anyway. And it just shows it's just all nonsense. Now Alex Jones come out saying he's not going anywhere. He's not going to stop. And you can't sue someone into not existing. So there's workarounds. And I'd be really surprised if any of these people actually see a penny from Alex Jones. He's claiming he doesn't have it. He's claiming he's broke. We will see how that plays out. The next story, man, this is brutal. John Fetterman. He's running for office. He did an interview with NBC and he was unable to understand the questions asked of him. The journalist who did the interview said that during small talk, he couldn't understand what she was saying. He can hear the words, but his brain can't process it. He needed a special device that transcribes what people are saying into text so that he can answer these questions. And I just think right there, it shows the dude is not mentally fit to be a senator. And you know what? I'll tell you, Democrats will still vote for him because they voted for Joe Biden too. But here's my warning, man. You look at what happened when you vote for someone like Joe Biden, because you don't care that he's clearly not with it. You're like, well, whatever, we'll let him win. Now look at your economy. Now look at your gas prices. Look at the war. Even Biden saying we're close to Armageddon. Not okay. We're going to talk about all this, but before we do, head over to eatrightandfeelwell.com to pick up your Keto Elevate MCT C8 oil powder. That's medium chain triglyceride oil powder. Many of you pointed out that in a new interview, it's an old interview actually, that was released of me, I was looking quite round. Well, in fact, I cut out the sugars, started eating some of this Keto Elevate powder, putting it in my coffee, and it was really fast actually. The weight just like melted off. As soon as I got rid of the sugars, the greasy stuff, and just started doing keto, that's what really helps. So go to eatrightandfeelwell.com and you will get 51% off as well as a 60-day money-back guarantee. Keto Elevate provides your body only C8, the most ketogenic MCT. That means it provides support for energy levels, healthy appetite management, mental clarity and focus, athletic performance. Keto Elevate, personally, is my favorite on the market. I mention this every so often. We had someone actually brought some other stuff over, and I didn't like it. I really do like this stuff. It's great in coffee. You get free shipping on every order, and for every order today, BioTrust will donate a nutritious meal to a hungry child in your honor through their partnership with NoKidHungry.org. To date, BioTrust has provided over 5 million meals to hungry kids. Please help them hit their goal of 6 million meals this year. You'll get free VIP live health and fitness coaching from BioTrust team of expert nutrition and health coaches for life with every order, and their free e-report, the top 14 ketogenic foods with every order. And maybe we'll do like a side by side, and we'll pull up a picture of me from like 2 years ago. And the next time we do this, because you can see like I lost like 30 some odd pounds. So people were pointing that out. But yeah, man, keto works. At least I can say that. You talk to your doctor or go talk to the experts over at BioTrust, eatrightandfeelwell.com. And don't forget to head over to Timcast.com, become a member, and support our work directly. We got a new show coming soon with Shane Cashman. He's going to be talking live, Superchats, thunderstorms, mysteries, paranormal, UFOs, Bigfoot. I'm super excited for this show. It'll probably be the only show I actually listen to, because usually I'm just reading the news. But as a member, you're also supporting our journalists, and you'll get access to the uncensored Timcast IRL show Monday through Thursday at 11 p.m. We will have one of those episodes coming up for you tonight. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, be the notification. People are saying they're not getting notifications anymore. We need you to be the notification so that people can actually find out the show exists and it's on, because we're probably being censored. Joining us today to talk about all of this and more is Andrew Gold.
Hello, thanks for having me on. What a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thanks for coming. Who are you?
I am a British, as you can hear, journalist and documentary maker and podcaster, host of the On the Edge with Andrew Gold podcast. I look into all sorts of cults and ideologies. I think the most controversial aspect thereof is that I consider woke ideology and that kind of thing as one of the ideologies. And
a cult.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's
that's why you're here, because we say it all the time.
I think so. It's cult-ish, at least. It's cultish.
Right.
But
it's a weird kind of like decentralized cult.
Yeah,
I guess. that centers on the internet or something.
It's got some comparisons to former ones, like the Bolsheviks and things like that. The Puritans back in I don't even know when that was. When was that? The 18th century? Puritans?
The Bolshevik one is the scary one, considering what's going on politically.
Yeah, it comes from this. It comes from like all cults and religions and things. It all comes from this need to be righteous, to feel like you're better than someone, to raise your status, your virtue higher than other people.
As you raise your microphone as well.
As I raise my microphone.
Deep richness.
Yeah, and it's just the rest of us see through it, but they continue this crazy charade.
We got a lot to talk about in that regard too. Also, Elon Musk sold burnt hair cologne or something. Whatever. Luke's here.
Well, cheerio, bloke.
Hello.
Nice to have you here from over the pond. My name is Luke Radowski here of WeAreChange.org. The FDA just announced another emergency use authorization for small children today, so I decided to be very brave and support this action by wearing my 1984 doses to slow the spread. Now, we're still a little behind, but I think we're going to get there eventually. And if you agree, you could get the shirt on thebestpoliticalshirts.com because you do. I'm here. Thank you so much for having me.
Luke reinforced one of my concerns that my spoon was dinging a little bit too much into the microphone. If you've heard the ding, 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 ding. So I got a nice large wooden one in the meantime. Thanks, Luke. Yeah. And if you didn't catch it today, I did an interview with the only Hotep Jesus, Brian Sharp, on his YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it yet, you're going to want to check it out after this show. Maybe you can catch it before the after show, which will be up at 11 o'clock p.m. on Timcast.com. What's going on, Serge?
Hey guys, I'm here again. You can't get rid of me that easily. I am here. Lydia is not here. If you haven't heard the news, a lot of people haven't heard the news at all, apparently.
They'll figure it out eventually.
She's in the monastery. We wish her luck.
Yeah, we do. And I guess that's it. We'll start the episode.
Serge is here pressing the buttons from henceforth. Let's jump into this first story from the AP. It's just so silly. Alex Jones ordered to pay $965 million for Sandy Hook lies an hour ago. I saw that and I just bursted out laughing. I think I was on the toilet and I'm looking at my phone and I'm like right when the news breaks, I was like, is this a joke? Come on. When they did the $50 million, I was like, wow, that's brutal. I still doubt anyone's going to get a penny from this because the way lawsuits work. Alex Jones says he doesn't even have the money anyway. Then they're $1 billion? This is just like, what is this for? Narrative and for the TV to say, oh, he lied about this and now he's got to pay $1 billion. It reminds me of Austin Powers when in the first one, he freezes himself and then he goes to the future and he says, I want $1 million. And they all laugh at him. And then they're like, Dr. Evil, $1 million today isn't actually a lot of money. And he's like, oh. And then in the next one, he goes back in time and says, I want $100 billion. And they'll start laughing at him again, saying, you might as well have just said $1 gajillion. That money doesn't exist. This is what it is. Like, who in their right mind thinks Alex Jones has $1 billion to give away?
I don't think anyone. I mean, he's been pretty transparent with his finances, and he doesn't. I don't understand. There's that phrase, trying to squeeze blood from a stone.
From a turnip.
From a turnip?
Yeah.
I don't know how the law works in this kind of situation where someone gets sued for money that they don't have.
I'm sorry. This is the biggest judgment in U.S. history, apparently, for defamation.
And it's people won a judgment for defamation that weren't even named by Alex Jones. I don't understand this. There were like six people's families, and an FBI agent that was involved somehow is pain and suffering from something Alex Jones. I mean, I understand he named someone, and then that person had phone calls. People went to that person's house. I don't know what the extent of what happened. That I get. That guy can sue for defamation. He got named for something but the rest of them, I don't understand this, and it's setting a precedent.
There wasn't even a trial. They just had a judgment because they had problems with discovery, and this is the second of 3 trials. There's still going to be yet another trial, and this settlement, this judgment, is almost as big as, of course, one of the biggest healthcare fraud settlements in history, which was given to Pfizer that had to pay $2.3 billion for fraudulent marketing back a couple years ago. So when you compare the two, bad opinions compared to what Pfizer did back then, there's a big difference.
Well, here's a question then. So what should happen? I don't have an answer to this. Let's say you're a parent of the Sandy Hook thing. You're devastated and there are people turning up at your house because of what Alex Jones said. What should happen? Maybe nothing.
Well, I mean, that's tough. For one, Alex had said that under Texas law, you have to say someone's name for it to be defamation, and that he was just saying these people and those people. But I think he did name one person. There was one individual he named. I'll say this. Alex Jones went on a show to a massive audience and said things that were not true. He's allowed to have his opinions. But when he said things definitively, there's a question there of defamation when you call out someone with false information who is not a public figure. I don't think the New York Times should be allowed to get away with it. My big issue, there's a couple of things I have issue with here. One, $1 billion is just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. They didn't give him a trial. And when are any of these big major media organizations ever going to be held to account in any way, let alone any way like this? It's not happening. So you can see how the machine comes for people who are outside of the establishment. I would say I would find it reasonable if Alex Jones was actually ordered to pay, 6 figures to each family, for each family member, something like that. Maybe the total payout would have been like $5 million. And they would have said that to cover the cost of security and moving, all the legitimate, all the legitimate costs incurred by these families. But the idea is here, punitive damages. The lawyers actually said to the jury, fine him so much he cannot keep his business up and running, or something to that effect. So the goal here is to punish him so that he doesn't do it again. And I just think that is where I say, no, that's wrong. And I'll tell you, Alex Jones is allowed to be wrong about things. He's allowed to have his opinion about things. Now, if he defamed by saying statements of fact that were not true about private individuals, then I think he owes them damages. But if it was that he truly believed it, and he was expressing his opinion on a major news event, then I don't see how you come after him for tens of millions or even $1 billion. Paying for actual damages because you were wrong and spread misinformation about someone that damaged their life, that I understand.
I'm thinking about a metaphor. I know you love it, about like social media administration. And one of the things it minds that we were talking about is if you ban someone for violating terms of service, you ban the channel. And then when they try and make a new channel, some of the admins would be like, no, they can't make any more channels. They violated the terms. I'm like, no, you're not banning the person. You're banning the channel. The channel violated the terms. So it's the same thing with Alex. You don't stop him from coming back. That's not the point. You punish him for the fraud or whatever, or the problem, but there's no like preventing people from existing or a realm back to normality. That's my opinion anyway.
Or redemption.
It's essential.
Oh, right.
The human conversation is about redemption. That's the Christian ethos, is redemption.
Well, these people aren't Christians.
Well, our society is kind of based on it in a lot of ways.
And I think that's a good thing. I think progress is a good thing, but I think there's a lot of values that come from Christian values that I think are good, notably like innocent until proven guilty is a really good one. And there's a lot of bad ones. And we found over a long period of time, we've gotten rid of the bad ones. But I think with this, the issue comes down to you cannot get rid of Alex Jones. It's impossible. Okay, here you go. John Smith starts a media company and then says, Alex, I'm going to hire you and I'm going to pay you $10 an hour to host this show. A benefit of working for this company is that you're going to eat at a 5-star restaurant steakhouse every night. The company pays for your penthouse and you get a corporate car, and you get corporate private jets, but you only get paid $10 an hour. What are they going to do?
Rad, that's cool.
What are they going to do? So if Alex Jones as a personality on a show generates millions of dollars, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. So if they sue him into oblivion, he has a trusted individual who starts a company and hires him. And then what? Now, if at that point he says something again, they can sue that company. Sure. But then what? You just do it again? It's ridiculous. You cannot, there's nothing you can do to stop Alex Jones. He is unstoppable. He is a gigantic man boulder rolling down a hill. You will not stop him.
Screaming on the top of his lungs,
right.
going crazy.
I want you to imagine Alex Jones rolling down a hill at 100 miles an hour going,
just he hits the bottom of that ramp and then he just goes flying through the air.
And then
awesome.
supernova.
Yeah. And then he's like meditating in the sky as he's flying.
Like that Pokemon, not Pikachu. I forgot who it is. Charizard.
But let me say this. How many times, I'll put it this way. The New York Times, the lies about the Iraq war and all of that stuff, the lies about Iraq that got us into a war, that cost what? How many people died?
Yeah, really.
And how many innocent civilians were killed? How much money was wasted? How much damage just around the world because of this? Have we sued the New York Times into oblivion to make sure they can never operate again? No, of course not. They just say, well, don't do it again. And we all suffer because of it. Alex Jones says incorrect things about a bunch of families that I think it was wrong of him to say. And in the end, they're like, let's make sure he can never, ever run a company. They want to destroy not just his life. They want to destroy the lives of anyone who worked for him. Even a guy who's like a groundskeeper or a security guard. That's insane. I want to tell you one more very, very important thing, especially as it pertains to censorship. When they censored Alex Jones on YouTube, this is very important. They did not just take away his ability to speak. They deleted the entire archive of all of the work he had ever produced and published on that platform. That's the scary thing about social media censorship. It doesn't just say you can't talk anymore. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube erases your entire history. Gone.
And then you can't comply with discovery. And then they're like, where's the video clips? Where's the video footage? Where's your apology? When did you say sorry? Show us the details. And of course, no one has the ability to have that many hard drives, that many backups of he streams essentially, what is it, 4 hours a day on his show. And then there's a bunch of other shows that he goes on. So it's just impossible. And truly, the larger censorship efforts are repugnant and disgusting. And the corporate media does what Alex Jones does every single day. The only difference is they never get held accountable for all the lies and all the disinformation that they spew.
Repugnant.
Yeah, that's a word, right?
Repugnant.
I love that
Potato,
word.
potato. You know what I was saying.
I thought it was a word I didn't know.
There you go.
Yeah, it sounded quite good to me.
But the context transfer, people got it.
Is the issue that, I mean, this was an emotional reaction, I suppose. It's like $1 billion or whatever it is. I do agree with what you're saying, actually. Now that I think about this, to delete someone's entire archive of work seems insane.
Yep.
But I also just feel like, well, what is to stop all of us now from just saying whatever we want that completely ruins someone's life that might not be true? What should be done?
Human decency, I guess. Morals, ethics. To an extent, the Christian values that were instilled in this country, whether you like them or don't, they're there. What should be done is defamation tort, civil tort. You know, I think we have a problem with Times v. Sullivan. Are you familiar with Times v. Sullivan? This is a precedent that basically says politicians and public figures. It's not just Times v. Sullivan. There was another court case that added to it, but it's basically the precedent that says if you're a public figure, then there's a higher degree of scrutiny. And I think that, you know, there's good things and bad things about it, but I think it kind of weighs on the negative. What this means is if CNN comes out and lies about me and says that, you know, Tim Pool, you know, punched a dog, and then I sue and say, no, I didn't, they'll say you're a public figure.
Oh, well, that's no good.
No, and so, I mean, saying that I punched a dog is a very definitive thing. So they probably would have a hard time with saying something that definitive. But they can come out and say that you're a known white supremacist who sympathizes and does this, that, or otherwise. And then if you try and sue, they'll say it's a protected opinion against a public, person. And so you case dismissed. If you're a private individual, then you've got way more grounds, which is why Alex Jones basically lost here. But I think the real reason he lost here is because the machine was out to get him. That's my opinion on the matter.
I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, look what the corporate media does. Just a few months ago, during the whole Afghanistan debacle, the United States Pentagon military literally launched a missile strike and killed an aid worker. The U.S. corporate media said that he was ISIS-K, that he was a terrorist. He was an aid worker that was bringing fresh water to Afghanistan. That's libel. That's defamation. This family is being defamed as some kind of new radical Islamist terrorists when in reality they were working with the U.S. government bringing fresh water to Afghanistan. Is the corporate media going to be held responsible for that particular incident of defamation, of lying about someone that just had their entire family annihilated in a drone strike that the corporate media and the U.S. Pentagon were lying about? No. Should they? If we're going to be playing by these rules? Absolutely. And I think you would get a reward more than $1 billion for such defamation and such actions if we're playing by the same rules set by the president of this particular court hearing.
I don't normally do super chats this early, but there is one that I want to address because I brought it up. And I think for people who are listening to the segment, they should hear it. Augusto Mimache says, where is innocent until proven guilty in the Bible? He who is without sin isn't the same. No, it is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. And it was, I think it was Abraham was talking to God. And God was like, you know, I'm probably getting the story wrong, but the general idea is, you know, I'm going to blow up these cities because they're full of, you know, nasty people. And then he asks, but what if there are 50 righteous people? And he's like, okay, if there are 50 righteous people, I won't blow it up. He said, what about 40? Okay, if there's 40. And then finally it comes down to, what if there is but one righteous man? And he says, okay, if there is one righteous man, I will not destroy these cities. The idea there is that you cannot condemn someone to death if they are a righteous person, right? That's the general idea. That was the inspiration for Blackstone's formulation. It is better that 10 guilty persons escape than one innocent person suffer, which then went to Benjamin Franklin, who said it's better that 100 guilty persons escape than one innocent person suffer. And the philosophy there, the legal and moral and governmental philosophy is, if people don't have faith that as innocent individuals, they will be protected from false accusations. If people believe that even if they are innocent, the machine will try to crush them, then they don't lend their confidence to government. Government doesn't work. Ultimately, this becomes the element of the government that is, you must have a trial, you must be proven guilty, you can confront your accusers, and you are innocent until they prove you're guilty. It's amazing. I was reading about, why I was reading about the Constitution, where these ideas came from, why we had them, and I traced that one all the way back. It was very, very fascinating. So yeah, there we go.
They say that 10% of people in prison are innocent, and it reminds me of Amanda Knox. Do you remember Amanda Knox?
Oh yeah.
She was on my podcast, and she's this lovely person. She seems so nice. And the minute I put that out, the amount of abuse I got and that she got, she now has to live with that, because people don't go by innocent until proven guilty. They're just all convinced she did it.
Yeah, the court of public opinion now. Yeah.
And that's the problem with stuff like this Alex Jones thing. Most people don't even know the full details of the trial, and I'm not going to pretend to either. I think if you watch someone like Viva Frei, you might get a much better understanding of how the court case played out and everything like that. But then you take a look at like the Ahmaud Arbery case, you take a look at the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Yeah. There are mobs with pitchforks going around demanding violent ends and they don't even know what happened. Like, hands up, don't shoot. People were rioting over the Michael Brown stuff that turned out to be fake. Ferguson the West Florissant in Ferguson was burnt to the ground, all these buildings, over lies from the media. And the media went there and they were all gloating and talking about how it was a great networking event. These people are nasty people, man.
So I don't think this is going to be a devastating blow against Alex Jones, because he is very persistent, and I think he's definitely going to figure out a lot of different ways around this. I think he already has safeguarded a lot of his assets and a lot of his businesses, but also more importantly, a lot of legal experts are saying that he's going to win on appeal when it comes to, of course, challenging this major decision. There's still, again, one more court hearing that's going to, of course, be going after him. But more importantly, I think with hyperinflation, the $1 billion is going to be a cakewalk, especially with the value of the dollar going down, with the Federal Reserve quantitative easing policies that have utterly destroyed our currency. And $1 billion is going to be nothing in a few months from now.
Let's jump to this next one. This is from Candace Owens, who tweeted, "Earlier today, I learned that Kanye West was officially kicked out of JP Morgan Chase Bank. I was told there was no official reason given, but they sent this letter as well to confirm that he has until late November to find another place for the Yeezy Empire 2 Bank. This is nuts." Here's a letter. It says, "Dear Yee," is that his real name now?
Yeah, he had it
He goes
officially
by
changed.
Yee now.
Wow. All right. There you go. "We are sending this letter to confirm our recent discussion with blank. JP Morgan Bank has decided to end its banking relationship with Yeezy LLC, et cetera, et cetera. The first thing I'm going to say before we get into the political ramifications of this is make sure you are using Parallel Economy. I know it's a relatively new financial service co-founded by Dan Bongino. Shout out to Dan, who's doing tremendous work to help fight back against censorship. If you become a member at timcast.com, we default Parallel Economy. Support businesses that are fighting back, that believe in these values. Parallel Economy is one of them. Kanye West, I will say it right now. Candace Owens, Kanye West, talk to Parallel Economy. They're not a bank. They do financial transaction services, but talk to them, because if Kanye said, "Okay, I won't use Chase. I'll use this bank and I'll use this financial service," it could be a major movement towards pushing back against censorship. And Kanye is big enough to make a huge impact in that regard. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. You will own nothing and you will be happy.
You want to take this one, or should I?
You
don't own your money anyway. People think that's their money. That's their Federal Reserve notes on loan. They can take them back if they want. They can shut you down.
Doesn't it even say on like money or something about that?
It says Federal Reserve note. It's a promissory note that they give it to the American government. The American government promises to pay them back $1 plus interest for every dollar they borrow. It's such an insane system.
Ethereum, right, Luke?
No.
No.
The other guy was shilling for it. But that's another topic to discuss here. Again, decentralized currencies are another
Bitcoin.
thing. But the Federal Reserve is building their own centralized digital currency, which is going to lead to behavior like this tenfold. And this is not the first time that a major banking institution punished someone because of their opinions. I think that's what's happening here. We don't know exactly what's happening here. Maybe there's some accusations by Chase Manhattan that they didn't want to, of course, make public, but it's most likely what's been happening previously before, and that's, we don't like your opinion. We're going to make sure you can't exist in society. We're going to make sure that you, as an individual, can't have any free flow of transactions, which is absolutely crazy.
You don't
Can I just give a shout out real quick to Candace Owens' profile picture on Twitter? It's the communist fist appropriated by BLM holding wads of cash.
And it's melting.
Wow.
Oh, that's funny.
Yep.
You don't like Ethereum?
I question everything, and I'm skeptical of everything. So again, when it comes to a lot of these digital currencies, I think skepticism is your best friend.
Ethereum is clearly better than Bitcoin, Luke.
I told people
Mark Zuckerberg is your friend.
Yeah, I told people from the very beginning, invest what you're willing to lose, because it's a Wild West market. I do believe there are tremendous opportunities for decentralization, especially when it comes to privacy coins, things like Monero. There's a reason the IRS is sending out messages and letters saying, please help us crack Monero. There's a reason Amazon and Jeff Bezos are building technology that will break, of course, encryption. So I do believe in privacy coins, but I don't believe in what the World Economic Forum and a lot of the other big bankers are pushing, and that's centralized digital currencies. The CEO of BlackRock was just talking about how the situation in Ukraine is going to lead to a bigger push for centralized digital currencies. That's essentially what they're pushing for, a social credit score where they will track, trace, and database and punish you on the fly for wrongthink, just like they probably did to Kanye West with Chase Manhattan Bank.
I'm pretty flabbergasted. I didn't know that banks and PayPal, of course, at the moment, I didn't know they could actually do this based on your views. They can just say, okay, well, we're going to take your money, or you can't use us for your money. I had no idea that was allowed.
They can't do that in the UK?
Well, I think they can, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know until
I'd
recently.
imagine it's probably worse in the UK.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah.
The PayPal stuff started happening to quite a few people I know in the UK. I started seeing it happening on Twitter. Loads of people saying, well, my PayPal's closed. No one's told me why. Don't know what's going on. I mean, I've been stressed out about the whole free speech thing for quite some time now, just the way people are clamping down on it, using culture and the press to stop people just having views. Look, the Kanye West thing, I'm Jewish. I've grown up Jewish. My family's Jewish. Friends are Jewish. I was, properly actually Jewish. It's very offensive what he said. I take it with a pinch of salt because he's Kanye West. He says mad things all the time and whatever.
Exactly.
You hear it every day anyway, so okay, whatever. But I wouldn't want to have a bank that doesn't allow people who disagree with me or say horrible things to me to be able to keep their money there. And it's the same with speech. I want people who've got opposite opinions to mine to be able to say whatever they want, and people can decide if they want to listen to them,
Would you have debanked Hitler if you were running the bank that he was using when he declared war on Poland?
Nice, dude.
I think once you've started a war, it might be a bit different if you're trying to stop. But I don't know. That's over my pay grade. What would you have done?
He was getting financed by the Bushes and the Rockefellers, so he had no problem.
Prescott Bush.
I would have
Prescott
debanked
Bush,
him and
yeah.
used my bank as a weapon to win the war. I mean, I'll be honest. That's what this is. I mean, we say it's a culture war. We kind of joke and laugh. It's a real culture war.
Sure.
Like it's a domination for your mind.
Sure. But that's different. That's you trying to win a war. We're not trying to win a war against Kanye West.
But sanctions and war happen all the time. Tons of people say we're no longer going to do business with you and your money's frozen. This is a private citizen in the United States being told that he's being kicked off of a bank. Now, we don't know exactly why. They didn't say why, but we know why.
Yeah, we all
He's in the news. They're saying he's offensive. I think this is actually really, really bad for Chase, and they made a big mistake because we saw what happened with PayPal. Their stock is down. I think I don't know where it's at right now. Let me check PayPal stock for the day, because it was up early. Let's see where it's at. So it's up 0.87%, but in the past 5 days they're down 10%. So since this news broke over the weekend, they're down 10%.
Dude, while you're here, look at their last 5 years. Look at what happened April 2020 to PayPal stock.
Yeah.
COVID is announced. Guess out. All these people made 3 times their money and then sold it all. And then they went back to normal. Someone tripled their money.
But that means someone lost their money. And I imagine it was pension funds.
I think a cabal of organizations tripled their money by investing in PayPal through the pandemic and then got out. And then a bunch of people that were trying to ride the wave probably bought in while it was up.
Yeah, people knew commerce was going to, of course, happen online and not in person and not in real life. So it was an investment that a lot of people predicted.
I've heard stories from people who bought Moderna stock. Someone told me this, that they bought Moderna stock right at the start of the pandemic because they were like, oh, the media's talking about it. And then what was that, like a 100 times increase or like a 40 times increase on your money?
I don't know.
Probably a lot.
Investing in these machines and then getting rich off them, like investing in PayPal, knowing that people have to buy online and they can't use,
Mom and pop
Right.
stores and bodegas.
So there was money to be made. I don't think it's necessarily what you think it is, Ian. It's probable that a lot of powerful elites were playing games. I think a lot of it was people being like, I'm going to invest in PayPal and Amazon and Netflix, and all of their stocks skyrocketed because people couldn't leave their houses. So maybe it was his name. Was it Paul Pelosi? Is that yeah?
Nancy's husband?
Nancy husband?
Yeah, the
Is that
glorious Paul
Yeah.
Pelosi.
Great trader, smart guy.
He's very smart,
on Wall Street especially.
It's almost like he's like psychic, like he just knows these things are going to happen.
Yeah, or like he has like his wife like has some inside scoop or something.
It's almost like his wife is the Speaker of the House and has an inside track on what bills are moving
It's probably
forward.
more likely that he's psychic.
It's almost as his
Yeah.
wife is making all the decisions in big industry. That, of course, is directly correlated to some of the big trades that he's making.
Welcome to the modern era, my friends. They went after Kanye West, man. That's what happens.
Well, we still don't know exactly what happened here. We could speculate. It's probably because of his more spicy, controversial, topics and conversations. I've been seeing like a little scuttlebutt of what he's been saying. But again, when banks get more involved, when there's more social pressure, this is creating a society that is essentially a social credit score. You can't think the wrong things. You can't express the wrong things. And even if you do express the wrong ideas, at least have the ability to be able to, of course, have them challenged, have them questioned, because that's how you stop someone from believing in bad things. You question those things and you actually talk them through it instead of just censoring them, which actually pushes them to the further extremes and has them go to places where they get more radicalized and they get more crazy belief systems, which again is psychologically proven to be true.
I think that you're right that diplomacy and communication is the way. Is kind of the United States was based on a bunch of people that didn't agree, got together, and then they started figuring it out together. And they didn't have global wars. But the problem now is that I don't speak Russian, I don't speak I don't speak Mandarin, and so to debate and have conversation globally in this it'd be like if people in West Virginia spoke Mandarin, but people in Massachusetts spoke Russian, but we're still expected for those people to somehow work together. It wouldn't have happened. They had a common language, and now in the globe we don't have a common language. We kind of have English, but I don't understand the Russian guys speaking Russian, and that's a big.
And I don't understand what Kanye West is saying half the time, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
It's like hard to. And I'm not trying to-
we listened to one of his shows, him
Yeah,
and
and it was
Rogan,
just like,
and Tim was
what?
like, "I do not understand." I was like, "I get every word, man." He's just a wild.
he's tuned to
an
that
empath.
frequency.
Yeah.
No, his Tucker
got
Carlson interview was very coherent. It was very good. Yeah, we listened to that.
I thought he was eloquent there.
Yeah, and then Vice came out and was like, listen to what Kanye really said, but Tucker edited it out. And I was like, it's just not, that's like one controversial thing. He's a black Hebrew Israelite, I guess. Kanye West believes that he's a true Jew, and I'm like, I don't know. I maybe Tucker Carlson took it out because it didn't flow the conversation, and it's like they cut it for time.
Yeah.
Oh, because Judaism is passed through blood. That's the idea. And so he says his great ancestors were Jewish.
No. Black Hebrew Israelites believe that black people are the true, children of Israel or whatever, and that the people there currently are like occupying it and stole it from them or something.
Interesting philosophy.
When BLM first started getting really big a year or two ago, that was quite a difficult time for a lot of Jewish people because a lot of anti-Semitism came from there, and then there was a lot of sort of Jewish black rivalry stuff going on for about a year or so.
So I lived in Crown Heights in Brooklyn, and there was a huge Jewish, there were shootouts between Hasidic Jewish people and the black community. It was weird.
Yeah.
And they just had up like a mobile command at like this dividing line between the two neighborhoods. And I didn't really understand it. But then several years later, when I was covering a riot in Baltimore, and these kids were talking about they were Muslim, and they started talking about a lot of this stuff, and they're just like coming up to the cameras and then yelling stuff, and then people started explaining to me like Farrakhan and all this stuff I wasn't super familiar with, and I was like, okay, I get it. Yeah. Right. So you've got these people who believe really, really anti-Semitic things. Fair. We saw the reporting from I think it was the New York Times and Tablet about the heads of BLM were extremely anti-Semitic, spreading these conspiracy theories about Jewish people and all that stuff. So
well, this was a really weird time because BLM was everywhere in the UK. The UK, I mean, in some senses is further left and more woke than America, and in other senses it's the opposite. We tend to take our lead from you guys. Something happens here, and 6 months later, it's like all over the UK. And BLM, of course, that happened in the UK, and it almost doesn't make sense. The statistics and everything in the UK, it didn't really make sense. I think like 3 black people over 10 years had been killed by police or whatever. It's a total. We don't have as many black people in the UK. It's a totally different thing. But BLM went crazy, and then I had to go to like soccer games, right? And I would see just like the T-shirts had BLM all over them. BLM was written everywhere, and I'm just sitting there with my dad and that, and we're just watching it like as Jewish people. We're like, well, where's my decision in this? Because I know that the organization, I don't have a problem with the words Black Lives Matter, but that organization, the anarcho-Marxist, anti-Semitic thing, why do I have to watch that on my football club now? It wasn't nice to have to watch.
So you talk a lot about cults and stuff like that. We mentioned earlier in the show that the wokeness is very much a kind of cult, but what are your thoughts on all this in the United States, in the UK, just generally in the West?
It's just a bit what I think it comes from status and or status. I think you guys say, right?
Yeah.
So status. There's a theory, and I owe a writer called Will Storr for this about status. Status. We sort of evolved in tribes, and there were 3 types of status. One was dominance, one was success, and one was virtue. So you would get more of the food if you were particularly dominant in a tribe. You would get more of the food if you were successful. Mm-hmm. If you're successful in a tribe, you would start, you're maybe good at making the fire. You invented the wheel. Everybody's going to share their food with you. Now, if you're not particularly dominant as a person, if you're not particularly successful, the third option was virtue. And you had to show that you're a really nice guy. You're going to share your food with people. You know, you're going to help someone if they need it. Then they're going to share their food with you. But the thing was, you didn't actually have to be virtuous. You didn't have to actually help people. You had to make it appear like you did.
Signal your virtue.
Exactly that. And they found like there've been studies shown that people who do that a lot are more likely to be psychopathic or narcissistic.
That makes sense.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if what we're seeing is basically there's like this grand restart or something, a great reset that's happening, and what happens then is people who don't have purpose become wayward. You know, what is it? The idle hands, the devil's playground. So you have a bunch of people who have nothing to do, no specialties, no expertise. They're just listless, wandering NPCs or whatever.
Irrelevant.
And so in this hollow hole in their heart, they fill it with fake purpose. And so they join the machine. And that's why they're so adamant about never giving it up, no matter what. Why is it that we had Larry Elder here and he says, you know, I tried showing the quote, the transcription from Trump, where Trump did not say, you know, very fine people, all that stuff. He said the white supremacists should be condemned totally. And they refuse to read it. It's because they have nothing in their hearts. And so, you know, for me, I play music, I play Magic the Gathering, I skateboard, I rollerblade, we're writing songs, we talk politics. I am very full of purpose. But what about someone who has nothing? What about someone who's not really that good at playing guitar? What if someone who's not really good at playing games? What if someone has no hobbies and they have no friends? The only thing they have is to latch onto this ideology. That's the one thing they have. And then you come along, the nerve of you, trying to give them the truth, which would shatter the only thing they have in their hearts. They won't allow that. They go nuts. And that's why they get violent on behalf of it. It's the only thing they have. Their only passion.
You're spot on. I think that's exactly it. But I think it's the same reason people sometimes go really far right. It's the same reason people get into Scientology or Mormonism or whatever it is. Often they don't quite have something in their lives. I always remember, you know, when I was a bit, I don't think I was woke, but maybe liberal when I was like 18, 19 years old. You go to university, right? You know, when you go and everybody's got in their dorms like posters of like, this is who I am. I'm someone who likes The Godfather. And it's like, well, everyone likes The Godfather, you know, but that's my individuality. And hopefully as you get older, you start to, as you say, take up more interests. You don't identify it. You know, everyone's got in their pronouns or whatever it might be in their Twitter profile. And, you know, why do we need to know that? Well, I want to know if you play guitar, as you say. I want to know what you do in your life, what's interesting. And those are the people I think sometimes who are led into cultish groups.
They don't have anything. Like, you know, I like to skate, was rollerblading earlier today. And every day when I do, I'm trying to one-up myself. So I'm trying to go higher on the vert ramp, or I'm trying to do something I've never done before. And that's fulfilling, and it's an accomplishment. I'm challenging myself every day. But if you're someone who doesn't have that, then the only thing you have to give you that dopamine release is going to be fitting in and having someone else praise you, or feeling like, you know, you've latched onto something.
Or eating. Yeah, eating. That's another thing.
Maybe that's why a lot of them are morbidly obese. No joke.
That fills the depression. If you feel depression, you want serotonin, you eat. That's a big thing. That definitely raises your mood.
Well, and the food's being engineered to become addictive, but that's another process in itself. I remember a couple of years ago looking at psychological studies, specifically when it came to radical jihadists, and a lot of psychologists found that it was poverty and polyamory that led to, of course, people becoming radicalists because there wasn't enough women for the guys to go around. Mm-hmm. One guy would marry 10 to 12 to 15 to 20 wives, and there wasn't enough wives to go around because of the poverty, because of the lack of education. A lot of people just went to extremist groups. So when you look at those conditions, when you look at what's happening in today's day and age in the dating world, when you look at what's happening financially with the banks and the big multinational corporations pretty much stealing everyone's money, we're pretty much creating the same situation for radicalization. So yes, things are not going to be good with so many people radicalized, with so many people going to the fringes and going to these extremist groups that they're going to be taken advantage of with.
And now we have the cults becoming prominent in government. In major corporations and institutions. Have you studied or read up on other more traditional cults?
Stuff like Scientology or NXIVM or those kinds of things?
Sure. I don't know about those specifically. Those are more modern, but I mean, there have been, was it Jim Jones? Is that his name?
Yeah. Jonestown.
Jonestown.
That was mad.
I use those because I think we have, well, actually, Scientology might be a good example as well, but I think Jonestown it's very definitive. It had an end. There's a lot of that we know about it. Mm-hmm. What are there similarities, or can you look at something like that and then try and predict where we go with the modern woke cult?
Well, Jonestown, I think, is really rare just in terms of how, I use the word cultish to think, something is cultish. Maybe it's 1 out of 10 cultish, and Jonestown was 10 out of 10. Scientology is like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 or something. Heaven's Gate was the other one. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah. Was that where they thought they were going to go on the comet or whatever?
Yeah. I mean,
did they drink the Kool-Aid too?
So that's actually a misnomer, the Kool-Aid thing. I think it wasn't Kool-Aid, it was something else, but it got remembered as Kool-Aid.
Yes, it was.
I love how it, always like this story is it's relatively modern, right? It was in the 90s?
Yeah, I think so.
And now drink the Kool-Aid has become like a slang term for buying into something.
And it's wrong.
Oh, right, it was Flavor Aid.
Yeah.
It was Flavor Aid?
Yeah.
Oh, not Flavor Aid?
It was cyanide poison. And if there's audio of them eating it, and people didn't want to. They were refusing. They were screaming. They were taking babies away from mothers to poison the baby, and the mothers were screaming. I think horrific. It's on YouTube.
Are you talking about Jim Jones now?
Jonestown.
Okay,
that's all Jonestown.
Slightly different.
I don't know about Heaven's Gate.
So Jonestown, people believe that they all killed themselves, and they're like, how did that happen? And that's not really what happened. They tried to escape, as you say, and there were security guards just shooting them and killing them all dead.
Dude, you got to listen to it. It's like a 40-minute video on YouTube.
Why? Because they're cultists.
The guy in charge, Jim Jones, was being caught. I think the FBI, I think it was, or would it have been the CIA, were in Guyana, sort of checking up on him, and he knew his days were numbered.
Right.
So it was like, okay, this is the next step. We all have to kill ourselves now. Right. So I think it's rare that people get absolutely swept up to a point that they're willing to actually kill themselves like that. I think that's the same with a lot of, we talk about the woke ideology stuff. I think deep down, and the woke stuff goes back to the New Puritans. I talk about the Puritans. Andrew Doyle is great on that. I interviewed him recently, and he's fantastic. He's got this book called The New Puritans, just about how similar the witch hunting stuff is to a lot of the woke ideology. Yeah. And they knew it wasn't real, the witch hunting people, but they knew that if they said anything, just like now, if they said anything, they'd be next.
You get shouted down, right?
Yeah. So that's probably the closest thing I think in terms of like historic cults and how that relates to today.
So maybe in 50 to 100 years they'll talk about the cancel culture trials and how absurd and crazy everybody was, and I think we'll come out on the right side of this one.
So it's that they think that if they cause enough pain to the enemy, that they're actually causing good to the ones they. I mean, I don't understand. Like, what was the impetus of the witch hunts? Why were they doing it? I've heard that they were on ergot. That they were inadvertently dosing themselves with ergot.
Oh, I don't know.
It's like a fungus on wheat that causes hallucinations.
Yes, correct.
And so they were tripping balls. They didn't know it. So they thought he's a witch, she's a witch, I'm a witch. And they didn't know. And
it also has to do with the fact that people have like the hag's dream. You never heard of that? The hag's dream, when you fall asleep and you feel like someone's in the room.
Right.
It's just an evolutionary trait that allows you to think, oh, if there's something in the room, you're awake, but you're not moving. Your body keeps you from moving. And
I get that.
Sleep paralysis.
I get that.
Right,
bad.
sleep paralysis.
My girlfriend has to wake me up. I'm like in my head, I'm screaming. I think I'm screaming. I'm going, wake me up. But what's actually happening is I'm going, which is freaky for my girlfriend. Like 4 a.m, like she's got to be like, okay, no, obviously I shouldn't swear, but like, waking me up and all that. It's just like it's freaky. Yeah. But that's it. But the thing with the witch thing, and which also relates to modern times, because you guys were talking before about when it's powerful people, it doesn't, the same rules don't apply. The girls that were accusing everyone, they did towards the end when it was falling apart, they did accuse people who were quite prominent,
Right.
and everybody just sort of went, "What? Shut up!"
Yeah.
And then they had to shut up after
The
that.
witch hunts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They tried to reach too high.
Yeah.
And then powerful people said no.
Kind of like when they went after Rogan with the ivermectin thing.
Yes. Almost
Yeah.
Well, not
exactly.
just that. They went after Rogan for a lot of things, and they just doesn't work. Nothing sticks.
Yeah, sometimes it's overt nonsense. You realize.
Yeah. It kinda
Well,
shakes
that's what happens. Eventually, the veil gets shattered, I guess, and people are just like, okay, wait a minute, what's really going on here?
Yeah.
But I think it's like most things. It's just confidence. Do the people have enough confidence of other people to engage in insane behavior?
People were like, even really intelligent people, I mean, all of us probably get misled and led down certain rabbit holes and we don't even realize it. My favorite example is Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock Holmes. And he's supposed to be the master of deduction, Sherlock Holmes. So Arthur Conan Doyle is a super clever person. And there's a great book called The Intelligence Trap about exactly this, that the cleverer the person is, the better able they are to convince themselves of mad conspiracies, because they're smart. So it's confirmation bias. So Arthur Conan Doyle believed in fairies, and that was at a time when people did not believe in fairies. No, it wasn't like, it was back in the olden times, but he just was obsessed, and he was mates with Houdini, the magician, and Houdini was like an absolute skeptic, and they fell out over that. They had big argument over that, and also because Arthur Conan Doyle kept trying to get Houdini to do this like clairvoyant stuff and like speak to his dead mother and mad stuff like that.
And Houdini's like, it's not real.
Yeah, and Arthur Conan Doyle was like, those fairies are real, but the fairies were a prank by some young girls. They just put up some pictures of fairies and put like a drawing pin in the stomach and just put it like little paper fairies, and he believed that, and he thought that the drawing pin, the little pin in the stomach, that was evidence that they had belly buttons, and so they so they had children. It was like fairies can reproduce. That was what he was thinking. This is a super smart guy. So I think what's happening is, as you said, there's like all these people who are perhaps really intelligent. Like we like to think of, you joined Scientology, you must be an idiot. A lot of them is really I've met some really intelligent ex-Scientologists, but maybe they're lacking some sort of purpose. And then someone comes along and says, no, you've got purpose. You're going to sign a 1 billion year contract, which is what they have to do.
Yes,
and you're going to, with each bit of money you put in, you're going to learn more secret stuff about aliens and Lord Zeno.
That's Scientology?
That's Scientology. Yeah.
They have that's a 1 billion year contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Because you're immortal or something?
Do you know the Scientology backstory
Only a little bit.
about the Thetans? And
Please
and
share.
dropping them in the
Please share.
volcano
Please
and
share.
stuff.
It's fantastic.
So they now say this isn't what they think, but it is.
It
But
is. It is.
This is the problem with the internet. It's ruined cults, because cults are supposed to be, there's supposed to be a level that you can't reach because it's like the secret level, right? And until you put enough money in. But now we have the internet. So it's just there. So now Scientology has to go out and say, no, that's not true, until you get to that stage and they go, yeah, it was true actually. So it is, Lord Zeno and they all lived somewhere else, and he killed everyone in this alien planet, and all the spirits went away into Earth, into the volcanoes of Earth, and then went out and into everybody's bodies now.
And now you have like a bunch of ghosts inside you or something. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I was in Hollywood and I was skating. And they got the Scientology thing on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
And I think it's on Hollywood. Is that the street?
I live right next to it. It's
It's
just
between
then,
Sunset and Franklin, or Hollywood and Franklin.
So I'm skating, and then I see a guy with the book, and he's outside, and he's waving as I'm coming up. So I stop, and then he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" He talks to me, and he asked me if I knew anything about Dianetics, because I think that's what it says, like or it's like Scientology. Yeah. And then I was like, no. And then he was like, do you know anything about Scientology? And I was like, just what I've seen from the TV. I was like, don't you guys believe like aliens and like volcanoes? And he goes, that's what the cartoon says. Do you get all your facts from cartoons?
South Park.
And I was like, no. And he goes, oh, so how about we actually tell you what we do? And I was like, sure. And I came in and sat down, and then they gave me the e-meter.
No way.
And then, yeah, for real. And then I put my hands on it or whatever, and I'm like, nothing's happening. I have no idea what you're talking about. And then the guy asked me if I would be interested in better understanding and buying the book. So I actually bought Dianetics. Now I'm completely skeptical. I think it was like $20.
Yeah.
But I was like, how can I be critical of something I've never actually read? If I don't know what they're talking about, it's simple for me to watch South Park and then be like, the TV said you're dumb. But that would be stupid. And so I think I actually got maybe like 50 pages in and then laughed and then put it down. I was like, I can't read this. Because I think for me, it seemed really obvious how the manipulation worked. Mm-hmm. It's like my view of it is it's a false logic. Like it'll say something, hey, did you ever experience this feeling?
Yeah.
That's because of this thing. And then you go, oh, I could see how that works. If they can make you, using sophistry, go from point A to point B to C to D to E, they're walking you towards, they're creating the reality. They're building the logical structure for you to, and I read that and I was just like, people fall for this stuff. They read it and believe
the
it.
time.
Speaking on the integrity of Scientology, I lived in Hollywood and did a movie for the Scientology group. They had me and my girlfriend come in. They want to do something on the right to marriage. So they were like, okay, for this, you guys are married. Tell everyone how happy you are. So we're like, okay. So we lied that we were. They got a non-married couple to pretend like they were married because they liked the way they looked.
I thought you were going to say you had to lie that you were happy, but
no, we had to lie that we were married. So this is like a church, technically, having non-married people pretend that they're married. Like it's a lie. I was lying for the Scientologists, and they paid me to lie for them.
Yeah, sounds like them.
I want to jump to another segment, but we're gonna grab this super chat that just came in. Sleep is the cousin of death, says Tim, making fun of Scientology but thinks God's real. Oh boy, you see, this is the challenging thing, I guess, about trying to talk to people about physics, spirituality, reality, understanding, philosophy, etc., etc. I could be wrong, but Einstein believed in God. He was not an atheist. That's where the phrase Einsteinian God comes from. Maybe it's wrong, but the idea of Einsteinian God is, that phrase is used to explain to people who don't understand. They don't understand, I guess, how do you describe it? Concepts beyond knowledge, right? The infinity. Mm-hmm. What does infinity truly mean? How do you perceive dimensions beyond 3? So there are certain ideas that we understand can exist, but it's hard for us to conceptualize. We can describe. So with the issue of Einsteinian God, you talk to your average person, you say, like, describe God. And they'll say, a guy with a beard, he's in the clouds, and he's got white hair or whatever. And that's like a weird cartoon depiction of some religious deity. Mm-hmm. But this is why I say I don't believe in any organized religion. The simplest way to put it is, God, in my view, is just, there is a system by which we exist in. We understand the system of a computer program. We understand that we as humans are mapping out reality. The simplest way to put it is, God is the universe. There is a greater power that exists beyond us. It is the structure and code of the universe. It exists. Mm-hmm. That's the most rudimentary way to explain it to someone who thinks God is a person in the clouds. Now, a lot of religious people genuinely do believe that God is a person who is above us or around us or whatever, and that's on them. But if your assumption immediately is, when I say I believe in God, you think I'm talking about a guy in the sky, then you are not. Then you genuinely do not know enough about the subject. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean, my view of this comes from reading religious texts, growing up briefly Catholic, reading about quantum physics, reading philosophy, and then going, we don't know half. We don't know anything. We know so little. Mm-hmm. And when from that perspective, I would need probably a couple hours. We've done this in the members only shows, breaking down the long trail of thought to understand the concept that I'm trying to get to. There's no way I could do it in 10 minutes, without making a whole show dedicated to it. Yeah. But simply put, my view of God is not a guy in the clouds. It is well beyond that. Mm-hmm. I want you to imagine infinity. You know what infinity means, right? A lot of people think infinity is a number. It's not. Infinity means everything beyond and endlessly, and I want you to imagine things that don't exist. I want you to imagine a color you've never seen before. I want you to imagine the fourth dimension. How do you do it? You can't. You can understand a three-dimensional projection of the fourth dimension, and we can mathematically show how a fourth dimension will work, even though we can't conceptualize it outside of just drawing a mathematical picture. So there's so much to break down to get through that. I'll leave it there. Maybe we'll talk about it when it comes to cults, and we'll do it in the members only section. But let's jump to this story from CBS12.com. NBC reporter's interview with PA Senate candidate John Fetterman draws criticism. So in this interview with NBC, Fetterman, who's running, he's a Democrat in Pennsylvania, he can't actually understand the words that are being said to him because in May, he suffered a very serious stroke and it was debilitating and it caused him very serious brain damage. I'm not saying that as a pejorative or to be disrespectful. He literally is suffering from this. Actually. In the interview, let me play it here. I don't care to play her audio. They show in the, I think I just passed it actually. So let me see if I can play it. And, I'll pull the audio up.
What has the prep been like? And are you confident going into that debate?
It's going to be.
So they do editing because, here you go. There you go. In this image, you can see right here, in order for Fetterman to actually answer the questions, they have a special program that transcribes the words she's saying into written text so he can read it and then answer. This led to a whole bunch of people saying he's clearly not mentally fit to do the job. How is he going to stand on the Senate floor and debate an idea when people are saying, John, you are wrong. Your bill would do X, Y, and Z. And he goes, I can't understand anything. I can hear the words, but my brain can't process it. This is not someone being deaf. A bunch of these woke journalists, Democrats and liberals were like, we don't discriminate against people who can't hear. He can hear. He can hear perfectly. His brain cannot process the audio. That, to me, is very, very serious.
Right.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, man. They voted for Joe Biden. Hopefully they learned their lesson. I think a lot of people will have learned the lesson. I think a lot of people won't. But to all these people, I say to you, you voted for Joe Biden, right? You thought, how bad can it really be? How bad can it's better than Trump. When you vote for someone who is cognitively impaired, you get disaster, you get crisis, you get deficits, you get shutting down of Keystone, and now gas prices are skyrocketing, and then a weird justification in the media that shutting down and curtailing U.S. energy had nothing to do with the fact that gas is skyrocketing and now $6-7 in California. If you vote in this man, and I feel bad for him. I mean, no disrespect. I mean, a stroke is serious. I feel bad, and I wish him the best. But we need people who are physically and mentally capable to do the job. I think they'll vote for him, though.
Well, it's not only that. Outside of politics, if you suffer a serious brain injury, you got to rest. You got to relax. You got to give your brain time to heal correctly. And just by shoving him into the camera, shoving him on stage all the time, that's not good for an individual who suffered a severe injury to his mind. And, you know, if people really did care about this individual, if people really were looking out for his best interest, they would be making sure he healed correctly before putting him up there on the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have had a brain injury as well. I had a brain injury in 2015. I fell asleep driving and hit an accident response vehicle on the road. Whoa. And I cannot even imagine being put on stage, let alone, you know, having to be a representative for people that are voting me into power and into the United States. Like, I don't remember if he's running for the House, Congress, I forget what he's running for now. But I would never want to be in that situation. It would be unbelievably hellish. It'd be extremely stressful because just coming out of that is already such a challenge. So,
what did you do to recover?
I spent some time with my parents, actually, in the UK, funnily enough. But it took me, I would say, you feel like you're recovered after about a year, 2 years, but you really only realize maybe 5 years later that, wow, okay, now I'm fully recovered from my brain injury. So I honestly can't even remember or imagine what he's going through right now. Not to give him quarter or anything like that, but I would never put myself in a situation where I'm being a representative for other people, let alone, being forced to read to respond to everything. That's wild. Yeah. Wild. A
lot of soldiers on the front lines of battlefields are told to not be on the battlefield for too long because of the concussions and the shooting and the grenades and the explosions and the sounds literally rock their heads to the point where they get serious brain injuries. They're told to literally get off the battlefield, go into a dark, quiet room, and make sure there's no stimuli, make sure you could actually rest and relax your brain. So when you're put on stage, when you're being quizzed during an interview, when you're taking questions from individuals, you're not allowing your brain to rest. When you can't even interpret sounds, you're not allowing your brain to rest. So it's just a sad situation overall, and it's sad seeing him slur his words. And, a lot of people are using this for political talking points, but it's beyond that, I think.
It is.
But come on, the dude should have dropped out. The Democratic Party should have said, look, man, you had a stroke, I'm sorry. But I think as much as I can say, I'm sorry to the man for having a stroke and I wish him the best, where I will criticize him heavily is his arrogance. His arrogance in thinking, I'm going to keep going. Okay, man. Yeah. We see what happens with Joe Biden, and now you're going to get it in Pennsylvania when the people vote for this guy. It's going to be bad. He's going to be in a meeting, and someone's going to say something like, there's an emergency, and we have to act now. There's a crisis on the bridge. And he's going to be going, I don't know what you're saying. Yeah. You need to call it in now. We've got a flood. There's damage. There's people dying. Can someone get a CC machine in here so I can understand? What do you do? I'm sorry, man. This is a guy, look, I get it. He's running for Senate. He's not running for, he's lieutenant governor now. That's bad enough. He should have resigned. I don't know if he's still in that position. But he's going to be on the Senate floor, and they're going to be saying there's an emergency. They're going to bring him in, and they're going to have to get him a special computer. Look, technology is fantastic. Before this technology existed, even maybe 10 years ago, he'd be done. That's it. Sorry. Have a nice day. You can't understand words being said to you. You can't do this job. And because of the technology we've invented that can transcribe words into text, which is a relatively new thing, he is now saying, okay, I can do it. Yo, I have tried using transcription software. There have been many circumstances where like Biden's giving a speech and I need to grab like a chunk of the quote. And I'm like, I got to write this down. So what I'll try and do is I'll download voice to text, or I'll use the internal voice to text, and it's full of errors. Yeah. And what happens when someone says something like, imagine this person saying, listen here, my sister. And then it says Mr. instead of my sister. There's like words get jumbled too quickly, and then he's reading it and he reads the wrong thing and gives a bad answer.
Right.
Yeah, they make mistakes all the time. It's not perfect technology. It's new technology. You know, whenever you have captions, even on social media, you have to look through every single word because there could be a big mistake there that the algorithm could find and pick up and automatically ban you for even using specific words on a lot of the social media platforms.
Imagine,
but I just kind of want to point out: is it really him or is it the people behind him? Because again, this is a man who suffered a serious injury. Does he even how aware of he is of the current situation? And a lot of people, when they're injured, they don't want to see themselves as injured. A lot of times they don't want to heal. They don't want to rest. Exactly. So he might be pushed by other individuals, by other interests who are saying this is too much of an important race for us to lose. There might be a Democratic machine, special interest, big money saying, hey, we invested in you. We want our payout. We don't care. Go out there on stage, sing a dance for us, because a lot of politics is that. Big money controlling individuals to be their puppets. Politicians are puppets, in my opinion. And to me, there's a lot of puppet hands behind this major race that the whole nation is looking at.
Here's another interesting tidbit. He probably could watch this podcast of us critiquing and talking about his health, and he wouldn't understand it at all. The closed captioning, auto-generated on these videos or whatever. For I'm thinking of like, what if Ben Shapiro was trying to tell him something? And Ben Shapiro talks fast.
He does.
So you get someone like, imagine someone says, John, you got to watch the latest Daily Wire with Ben Shapiro. He says a bunch of things you need to, you'll want to be apprised of. And he's been talking really, really fast. But there's a prominent issue when it deals with taxes in the United States government. And we got all these senators that are coming in. And he's going to be like, the voice to text doesn't work on this.
It's really sad, I'm thinking the whole time, like, yeah, but maybe it can work. And I don't think it can. I don't think it can work, unfortunately.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, I can understand why he'd want to do it, and I understand. Do you think he's more likely to win now, though?
Well, right now the aggregate polling has him 6 points up, but we've seen from aggregate polling in the past several elections a 7-point swing in favor of Democrats. So it looks like it may actually go to Dr. Oz. And NBC in this interview said the race is now a toss-up. Look, I think the average person in Pennsylvania is sitting there going like, "I'm sorry, dude. I like you, but you can't do the job."
Right.
Look, if I need to hire someone to pick up boulders and you show up and you're in a wheelchair, what am I supposed to do? I mean, I don't even know what the legality is on that, but if you can't pick up a boulder, how do I hire you to pick up a boulder? If we're hiring a person to argue, debate, and push policy, and he can't understand the words that are being said to him, how does he do the job? I'm shocked that he's demanding that people actually support him in that regard.
Yeah, that's what bothers me. I want to like him, and I don't because of his... arrogance was a good word, actually.
It's arrogance.
Yeah, it's really annoying.
I broke my hand, but I'm playing the guitar. You can't stop me.
Pull back, bro, and then run again in like 4 years. You can run again. Run when your body's rested and healthy. Do a float tank. I don't know if psilocybin's right for you. Do something to help repair neural pathways. You're okay. But don't take on this responsibility right now.
Right.
There have been some studies with psychedelic mushrooms showing that they could actually heal some kind of brain damage. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here trying to give any medical advice, but there are some preliminary studies that I think are worthwhile to look at.
It's called neurogenesis, and it's how you regrow brain cells.
Yeah.
So it's the function of regrowing brain cells. You can do it, John.
Modern politics.
But I think that's illegal, though. I think that's illegal in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, you would need to work with a doctor.
In D.C., it's legal.
Colorado, I think, right?
In Washington, D.C., it's legal.
Really?
Yeah.
Like psilocybin recreationally or medicinally?
Medicinally. I know someone taking it in Washington, D.C. right now.
I think Colorado, it's recreational, right? And
Yes.
Oregon?
Yeah. Well, Oregon, all drugs are decriminalized in Oregon, so you can find it there.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that what's going on in Portland?
I think so. That's part of what's going on in Portland.
That must be it. That explains everything. You got a whole bunch of people showing up wearing all black. Some are on shrooms, some are on acid, some smoked too much, some drank too much, some injected too much.
Sounds like it.
And it's all just...
I think
Some people did it all.
I think it's a lot more complicated than that, especially with George Soros's involvement. But that's another topic to discuss here.
I think Switzerland is also that way, and I think they've got. I remember reading about they've got these little sort of cabins in their parks where you can go, and I don't know on this channel if you can say, but like the H that you inject.
Heroin.
You can say that.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can say
Yeah.
that.
Sean doesn't let me say that on his channel. You can inject heroin. You like go in and like it's all clean, and you just go and inject. There's someone there to help you administer it. And,
Harm reduction.
That's what they do there.
Let's just jump to a few weird and wild stories because it's fun. From the Hill, Elon Musk says he sold 10,000 of burnt hair perfume. 10,000 of what bottles? 10,000 bottles? There you go. Elon has sold 10,000 bottles of burnt hair perfume through his business, The Boring Company, earning more than $1 million in sales from the product. You're in the wrong line of work. That's just it. The billionaire announced the news in a series of tweets he called his burnt hair perfume. Doesn't get more lit than this. The
No
world.
way. That's amazing.
Burnt hair. Boring Company.
Love how it says singed on the bottom there in the subtext.
He already made $1 million.
He made
off
$1
of
million.
this.
It's $100.
Yep.
Let the flames begin. Why? I don't. You know what, man? I got mad respect for it. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Elon Musk, on your burnt hair perfume. Singed.
It's amazing. Man can sell anything. It
He
seems like.
changed his Twitter bio to a perfume salesman, I believe.
Wow.
Really?
Wow.
Yep.
Well,
Dude gets it.
yeah. I wonder why it is, and I talk about this, why people who are wealthy don't do more weird stuff. What do they do with their money? I was talking earlier about some big famous musicians and how they make millions of dollars playing shows, and I'm like, but you never hear anything from them. It's like they play the show and then they disappear. Where does all that money go? Does it just sit somewhere? Are these people sitting there thinking like, well, I'm going to be 70 and then when I die, I'll have one with the most points. Is that how it works? I'm like, do something. I just genuinely don't get it. What I just think about, we were talking about Trevor Noah leaving The Daily Show, and I think his salary is reported as like $16 million, but you never see anything from him.
Right.
What is he doing with all that money? $16 million bucks a year? So he's on the show for what, a decade? His net worth is $160 million at minimum if he didn't invest it. So let's say, or if he spent some, maybe it goes down to 150 if he spent $1 million bucks a year. That's an insane amount of money.
Yeah.
You can buy like an army of giraffes and have them march through New York. You could do like,
do so
why,
much.
I don't get it.
I interviewed quite a famous British singer recently who had like mad money, was living in Los Angeles, and he was saying about he ended up getting a house that was like a castle, and there were just so many people working for him that he would like go downstairs in the morning and there were like 30 cars outside, and he'd be like, none of these cars are mine. I don't even know. In the kitchen there'd be like 20 people. They're like staff, and he was like,
yeah.
Yep.
this is not my family.
Sounds
And he
like
got to a
Hollywood.
point where he was like, you know what, I've got to sell this. I got to change this life. I'm always wondering as well, what are these rich people? I guess they must do a lot of stuff in secret, but where do they go when they go on like a holiday, right? There are loads of, I don't know if it's the same in the States, but in Europe, if you take like EasyJet or Ryanair, right, you just go like a 2-hour flight to France. There aren't like more expensive versions. There's just those ones, and they're never on them. I guess they're getting private jets.
Well, so look, let's say you're making 16 million bucks a year. So what does that come out to? Like 1.2 million per month. A private jet, if you're flying, right now it's really expensive because of COVID and stuff, but it didn't used to be. But now with COVID and everything, I think the cost of a round trip from the DC area to Florida, as an example, I think the cost of that's probably between $10,000 and $20,000. If you're making 1.2 million per month doing a show, you're flying private, but that's not putting a dent in your money.
No.
You probably don't even think twice about it.
No,
but not
no.
only that, they don't do that. They do this thing called net jets, where you buy a percentage of a fleet, and then it's like a
timeshare. It's
a jet share basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then when you need to fly, you just call and say this airport, this place, this time, round trip, and then you pay for the fuel basically. But you own part of the plane, so you can always resell it. So it's not even that expensive. It's probably like 2 times as much as flying commercial when you have the money to invest. So my thing is just like, Elon Musk, we know what he's doing. He's making burnt hair perfume. Hey, more power to him.
Hilarious.
He's making flamethrowers and digging holes. That's great. Everybody knows that deep down men just desire to dig holes. And there you go. Elon, he's living the dream, man. He's the peak of all male, every male goal.
It's funny that he made a perfume with his drilling company. I don't know. The Boring Company is a company that makes underground drills to drill tunnels, and that's the one selling the perfume.
He also
make
just
flamethrowers,
wrote.
too.
He also just wrote a couple hours ago. Please buy my perfume so I could buy Twitter. So that could be one reason why he just is like thinking of random products, but. On a conspiratorial mindset, it could be the activation to the Neuralink, which could be already inside of us because of the nanobots that were injected into individuals.
Don't smell it.
So anything's possible here that is going to be activated with the Starlink satellites that, of course, will make you into a bot.
LiDAR.
That
Will serve the elites.
Kingsman, the film. That's what that
Yeah.
was.
Right, exactly.
They had the thing in their neck or whatever.
Something
Don't
like that.
smell it.
It's in the
smell the
jet
burnt
stream. You can't. It's going to
Yeah.
find its way to farmers in the Midwest.
Just Elon Musk being like, once I release all of the burnt hair perfume into the jet stream, it'll blanket the planet and everyone will be under my Neuralink control.
It's a secret bio.
But he didn't call it his Musk. He hasn't used
Yes.
the term.
That would have been a great opportunity.
Elon's Musk.
That's
Yeah.
got to come next. Elon.
Elon, if you're listening, Elon's Musk.
Everybody
Round two.
wants it. I mean, this is they are clamoring for Elon's Musk. They would buy your urine, man. Sell them something delicious.
Dude, come on.
They really would.
No, but I want to ask you guys seriously, like, someone knows what the rich people are doing with their money, or are they just I really don't get it.
Well, I think a lot of people put it in mutual funds and let BlackRock take over. Companies like BlackRock.
Is that it?
True.
A lot of it.
It's like, oh, I make $16 million a year, so I'll just put all of my money into a big machine and forget about
You'll
it.
find like a run-of-the-mill money manager who's like very, stodgy and like does the norm, which is put this percent into mutual funds, put this percent in a stock portfolio, these stock portfolios. Then the really rich people put it in offshore bank accounts that we don't hear about, like in the Cayman Islands.
But for what reason? I just don't get it. For what reason?
To give to their kids.
This is exactly what this person I interviewed said recently. He said, he came from poverty himself, and it's another status game, isn't it? It's another, how much you have. And he said, no matter how much I've earned, I always want more. I always want another million, another. You're always looking at it. So, and he said for future generations and generations thereafter, like constantly more.
But it's true. But don't these people do things? I don't know. Maybe I'm just a weirdo.
In secret.
But like, I don't think they do anything. I think people really need to understand. If you're someone like, if Trevor Noah's salary really is that much, he can have anything he wants. If he's not buying yachts and helicopters and all that stuff, and he can buy those things. But like, want to go to a restaurant? He can have the entire menu 10 times over from one day's work. He can buy the restaurant with 1 month's work,
Right.
or after a couple months, he owns a restaurant in Times Square. Millions. In Times Square, they're probably like $50 million somewhere. But a couple of years of work and you can own all of these buildings all over the place.
Well, it's like a psychological rat race. It's like, I need more. The other guy has something bigger. Jeff Bezos has something more, and then Zuckerberg has something more. And it's a foregoing competition until you're like, okay, I got too much money. I got all the power in the world. What else could I do to get some kind of feeling and emotion? Let's go to that private island with that Jeffrey Epstein guy. That sounds pretty interesting there. And then
the culmination.
that's essentially where they all go.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm Bill Gates. I got all the
now I
money in
get
the
it.
world. It's like, what can I do to get some kind of feeling or kind of experience here? I already won the video game.
Yeah.
Let me see what kind of evil, ruthless, crazy stuff I can get away with.
Well, this is actually true. Most people don't know this, but after you make your first $1 million, they contact you, the cabal, and they say, here's the way the game works. Once you reach 100 million, you're invited to Epstein's Island. And then, of course, all the rich people are like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. I'm kidding.
I get concerned with giving money to future generations. I'm not like at the point where I'm like, no, seize the wealth, no more, make the money go to zero. I don't know, that seems so extreme. But the idea that you can hoard massive amounts of money, which is not what its purpose is, it's circulatory. It's supposed to be,
right.
That's the point of currency, is
Means
it's
of
producing
exchange.
a current.
But this is why people who are very wealthy don't really have relatively that much cash. You don't want
They
cash.
just got assets that they
Right.
transfer over upon death. And I don't know. I think it's causing a lot of greed and a lot of like aimlessness, because it's just the numbers of what's important, and that's not what money is really intended for. It's supposed to represent goods and services.
There's a certain point where when you're making a certain amount of money, you can't become less wealthy. So if you're a middle class individual, let's say you're making 75K, 80K a year in the United States, you get a paycheck, you got to buy stuff. You save some of it, but you're saving for something specific like a vacation or for a rainy day fund. Your money comes in, you spend it on food. Your money comes in, you repair your house. Your money comes in, or you buy a house. Your money comes in, you repair your car. Once you start making a certain amount of money, and I think the number is somewhere around I think it's after 80,000 a year, you start having money sit around, then you start buying things. All of a sudden you buy yourself, You know, you'll buy a tablet. That tablet retains its value. So at a certain point, you're no longer consuming. You're actually acquiring things of value. For people who are very wealthy, again, just to use the example of Trevor Noah, because we've been talking about him, he gets $1 million in 1 month and says, I think I'll buy this building here. It costs $500,000. He doesn't lose the $500,000 ever. In fact, he makes more money from that. So it's like a curve. At a certain point, you make so much, you're rich forever.
But it's interesting you said 80,000 because I think that's also the point that scientists say that your happiness just levels out.
Well, that's why, because
Yeah,
it's when your basic necessities are covered.
Exactly.
In New York, it's like 160 to 200,000 for a middle class median because of how expensive everything is.
Exactly.
That's but it's all averages.
Is that adjusted to inflation now? Because that's probably
It
a lot
is.
more.
No. I
Really?
adjusted
80,000 right now?
No. Nationally, it's probably like 90 to 100. But this means if you're on average, you could be living in the middle of Idaho.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be less. Actually, I think the middle of Idaho is actually expensive.
It is.
But if you're like, let's say 100 miles west of Chicago, things are getting relatively cheap. Nobody really wants to live out there. You're not far enough away, but you're not close enough. And then the property gets a bit cheaper. But for people who are in the upper echelon, this is why I always question, like, what are they doing? Are they just buying houses and then having them? But for what purpose do you have more houses? For what purpose do you like buy a house and rent it out? So you can make more money that you're not going to do anything with? Yo, I'm like, someone's got to throw a pie. Someone's got to like just hire 100 clowns and have them run around waving flags saying something like F Biden.
They want to give it to their kids.
Or just keep repeating the Bill Gates pieing saga that happened and just have people running around with Bill Gates masks and then other people pieing them and just having that on replay.
No, wait,
That's what I would do.
Hold on. You came up with a really great game show. So half the people are dressed up like Bill Gates and the other half are given pies. And the goal is X amount of Bill Gates contestants have to be pied and the other half have to, like, the Bill Gates people not get pied, and then you see who wins at the end, right?
What if it's vaccinated instead of pied?
So 50 people are running around and then, so we get 100 people. 50 have big, novelty, oversized, spritzers that are shaped like syringes. And their goal is to chase after the people and...
They can't run around. They're going to get heart attacks. But that's a separate comment that I wanted to make here. But also, talking to a lot of people in the service industry, there is kind of this conversation that usually some of the most richest people in the world are some of the most stingiest tippers out there. So there is something to say about, people's ego, people's kind of desperation, people who have it all, but mentally are kind of bringing themselves down to a point of view where they, are, viewed as high status, but their their mentality is very low. Yeah,
I'm gonna buy some of this burnt hair.
I always told myself I would tip huge if I was rich. Like, I'm gonna become super rich so that I'll just tip huge. And I realized, like, dude, I'm rich enough. I'm just tipping huge from here on out. I just give massive tips, like 100% tips or like 80% tips. Just load these servers up, man. Other people need the money too. You need to circulate that stuff.
Yeah,
That's
feels
true.
good.
Well, you can't just give money away, because when you give money to people, people don't respect it. People don't care about it. You can't just give out free fish all the time.
No, it's not free. They worked for it. They served me. They got down on their hands and knees and groveled doing a job they hated to make sure that I got good food fast.
Yeah.
They deserve it. And I think a big part of why there's not enough pushback against BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, is that people have their money invested in these mutual funds and they're just trying to ride it out so that their kids get it. And that's like a gross mishandling of currency, in my opinion.
America's huge on tipping, and like when you come from any other country in the world, it's like, oh my god, how much do I have to give so much?
20% minimum.
Right.
But wouldn't it be better if just the restaurant? And I don't know enough about. So you tell me why if the restaurants just paid their staff better.
Well, yeah. I mean, I lived in Singapore.
You make
where
more
we
money
have
on
GST.
tips.
You do make more money on tips, but it's weird because a lot of restaurateurs will just say you get this much money every hour, and it's like 10 cents, but you have to make all your money in tips essentially.
It makes sure that there's good service too. So I prefer to tip than just have something.
Not anymore. It used to be that they were like, they want to make sure they did well, so they got a good tip. But now, especially in cities, they're like, you better tip me, or I'll take a picture of you and post it on Instagram.
Sometimes, rarely, but in the service industry now you get a mixed batch. Definitely, service has been downgraded, especially with people being so entitled, generally speaking. But overall, I've gotten some good, people who really do care about providing a good service to people, who really do make sure that they do the right thing and make you happy. And I want to pay for that. I'd rather have that.
The kitchen
Let's
too,
jump
if you
to
can. Tip the wait staff and the cooks too, if you can.
Let's jump to the next story here from the Daily Mail. Joe Rogan, he interviewed Steve Jobs. Did you hear about this? Steve Jobs has been dead for 11 years. AI creates an eerie 20-minute conversation where they talk about LSD, religion, and Apple's success. So I play this video and it is
So
creepy.
weird.
Oh, so this is the wrong one. Let me refresh it to get back the right video. They only have like a minute, and it's like, here you go.
Taking LSD was a profound experience for me. LSD shows you that there's another side to the coin, and you can't remember it when it wears off, but you know it washes over you and tells you that everything is connected.
Blah,
I
blah,
started
blah.
to realize that there was a higher power that knew that I was connected to something, and I wanted to learn more. Although I wouldn't recommend it for everybody because I think it can be quite powerful.
What did it change in your mind? What did you learn from it?
It reinforced my sense of what was important. Just love. Feel love for each other.
All right, so here's the point. There was that viral website where you could type in whatever and Joe Rogan would say it. Is that what it was? Like you could type it in or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Because we're at the point now where deepfake technology can recreate your voice.
Yeah.
So they recreated Steve Jobs, who's been dead for 11 years. This is, I don't know, what do you call it, nightmare reality? This is where we're going with AI. People are going to be like, you can type out. I mean, you don't even need to type it out. These like open AI, and I think you can write like, tell me a story, write a script of Joe Rogan talking to Steve Jobs, and it will just write the whole thing out. Then you can program with this stuff. Joe Rogan speaks, Steve Jobs speaks, and you make a fake Joe Rogan interview.
Not only that, but did you see what happened to the president of Ukraine today? He got turned into a hologram.
Zelensky?
Yeah,
cool video.
Zelensky. There's a video of it circulating right now on Twitter. If you look up Zelensky hologram, you could see. I think it was a major Hollywood studio that came in and created a hologram of him. So when you talk about what could be possible here to add on to your level, to what you've just been saying here, there's a lot of crazy possibilities that you could, of course, interlink together with faked audio, faked video, holograms, and a lot of people are automatically going to be thinking about Project Blue Beam and other theories out there. But there's real life possibilities here with some severe implications to society that should be questioned.
This is it.
So what is the?
They
No, that's
scanned
not
him.
it.
Yeah, these are people
right there.
claiming.
Yeah, no, this is it.
This is
right
them
there.
scanning him or getting prepared to.
Is this real?
Yes, this
Yeah,
this
this
was
happened
released
today.
today. Play the audio.
Here we go, and there's two different types of hologram that we're going to be making. Quiet please everybody, we're going to go for take now. Here we go, and action.
Even now, as the war is raging, we continue the digital transformation of our state.
Oh wow.
We need to use next generation technologies. We need to make it feel like he's more in the room.
What?
Yeah, I talked about this earlier today on my YouTube channel, but this is just the beginning of next level artificial intelligence.
Oh, they can
and-
shrink it and
that
grow.
I ever seen this technology before.
So this is actually I pulled the story up. I looked. I saw, it's from earlier this year. The hologram of him and everything. So this is like an old video, but a lot of people were saying that Zelensky's not really giving his speeches on location. There was one video where everything behind him is stationary, and then people are like, "It's a hologram," and I'm like, "It could just be like no wind," and you think, I don't know.
Well, during a war, do you want to be in a location where your enemy could recognize where you are and just bomb you? No.
Yeah, how would you produce that video?
So obviously, there's also a lot of propaganda in war, and you want to show that you're strong and that you're not afraid. And there's many implications with the technological advancements when it comes to psyopses that I think should be talked about, as there is a huge potential for a lot of manipulation, a lot of fakery to be out there in our mainline public, and a lot of people, wouldn't recognize it. And this is the technology that we know about. What's the technology that they have at the Pentagon that is still top secret that we don't know about, that really should be something that we should be concerned about?
Well, what's blue? You brought up Project Blue Beam a few times.
Well, that's
What is
a
it?
theory of like a fake alien invasion and projections and all this
Oh,
other
like
stuff.
Watchmen.
Yes, essentially. So there's different theories and speculation out there that essentially the U.S. government will create a fake alien invasion in order to unify the world and to bring in a kind of world government. So that's why a lot of people, I've seen a lot of memes also talking about this recently, saying how the aliens are just kind of waiting by for the next kind of psyop that's going to be affecting all of us. And some people believe that this could potentially be staged as a way to, of course, bring in a world government. That's the theory
with
out
this
there.
technology, the ability to make someone say anything. how is court going to work? Are all videos and audio now going to be inadmissible?
This is why algorithms should be open sourced. I mean,
No,
how else can you judge?
that does nothing. That solves nothing. If a guy is accused of punching a dog, and then he goes into court, and then someone says, what's your evidence? And this guy says, I watched him do it, and I even recorded him saying he was going to do it. And then they press play, and it's the guy going, well, I'm going to walk over here and punch that dog.
Right.
And then the person says, I never said that. They'll be like, well, I got a recording.
Yeah, I got
And then what do you say? Like, where did the audio come from? I recorded it. And the person lies. It's either inadmissible or unimpeachable. Someone can literally just fabricate it, and if they're willing to lie to a court, you'll never. Oh, you can get your experts. The experts say, we think this is fabricated audio. Here's why. And then you say, expert's wrong.
Yeah.
Person swears under oath, nah, it's real. What are you going to do about it?
Nothing.
I think we're screwed.
I don't know. Or the courts will start saying that recordings just don't cut it anymore.
Yeah, that's gonna be huge.
The opposite direction. You think that we have all these cameras now, so when we go to court, we have more likely to have evidence. And now it's like, no, people are deep faking everything. That video of Tom Cruise, that's not really him. Prove it.
Yeah.
It's not incumbent upon the person to prove the negative, right? So that's the challenge here, is that the court can say that fake recording is, or that recording, I can't tell if it's real or fake. You're saying it's fake, but I can see it right now. I guess I wonder, how do courts handle fabricated evidence as it is? It's probably just, they probably get away with it.
I'm thinking about audio codecs. Unfortunately, I know next to nothing about video software coding technology, but if you could have an open source verification that the video was not tampered with by, or if there's a certain kind of video that could be admissible in court.
You're screwed. You won't know. You look at movies today. It's hard to see what's real and what's made up. And again, this is what's public. What's not public should really be concerning you. And also, one of my favorite things to kind of look at is Chinese Elon Musk. There's a bunch of videos of him. If you look him up on Twitter, if you want to play some silly videos, there's Chinese a lot of those silly videos.
It's a guy that looks exactly. I mean, I thought it was Elon Musk till I heard
AI.
him speak.
It's AI.
Oh, I thought it was a real guy.
No, it's AI. It's face mapping technology that's available to the plebs, that maps someone's face and then puts an image of Elon Musk on it. Just go to Twitter, and then type in Chinese Elon Musk. There's a very funny
I want to play a little bit of the Joe Rogan Steve Jobs interview, because the clip they had didn't really do it justice.
You could tell
this
that
podcast is brought to you by Play.
And
it's a drawing from Steve
and
on
sometimes
stage.
Totally insufferable. Yeah. But my guest today has made some of the great technological products of our age, and he's always pushing the envelope in innovation.
This is crazy.
Like, for example, with his next computer, he developed a new programming language and operating system, and then he became even more famous for making 3 applications for that computer. Word processor, a spreadsheet, and an image.
So I'm going to pause real quick and just say, you can hear the artifacting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that sounds like Joe talking through
that
our
just showed me that
Apple users, and that's a good thing. It's cool.
Well, I was an Apple user way before I did this show. I've been a fan of yours and Macintosh since the 1980s.
Well, we just kind of figured that out. Even though Apple is big, it's still like 0.5% of the total users. People who listen to your show are a different group. They're weird.
Well, that's good.
What was that weird laugh?
So you must be a fan of the show then, right?
I am. And it was a struggle. Yeah. We were working like crazy and dealing with a defeat after defeat after defeat after defeat. But I could tell this was going to be important. Right. There were times I thought, is it possible we're wrong? Because things just kept not working. I remember that in the early days of Apple, perfection, lucky when much.
Do you think you'd have done a better version of Windows or work with it?
No. That's the problem I've always had with Microsoft.
You know what it does really well is it sounds like Joe, but it doesn't get any emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the issue. But we're looking at the Model T of this technology, and it's gonna be scary.
Yeah, it's still sourcing from all the Steve Jobs interviews of him being on stage. A lot of his stuff, so you can hear the echo. It sounds like his AI is on stage. Well, it sounds like Joe's on the microphone in his studio.
But it misses Joe saying things like, "What? No." Because it's very much him in the same cadence, in the
also,
same.
Also, they didn't spark up a joint, which they would have.
They probably did.
They would have. And if Joe was going to do LSD with anybody, Probably be Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Would you guys get an AI of like a loved one who passed away or
No.
something? Because that's probably going to become a thing.
I'd listen to it.
They've already talked about it with Facebook, that they can take someone's Facebook page with like now going on, almost 20 years of data, if how long you've been on there, and they can create an AI that can respond knowing everything about you. So it's like your dad dies, and then you go on, hey dad, he's like, hey son, how's it going?
Right.
And then they'll be able to respond to you. You'll say like, how's, this? And they'll say, oh, it's good. I just talked to John and he said that.
Right. If it's free, the product.
And then they'll take that AI construct, they'll download it into an Android body, and then the weird facsimile you will exist forever.
People say all the time,
and then they're going to be boning the machines.
I got you're right, but here's a better one. You are going to use Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And then one of these days, there's going to be a new service for, ultimate video gaming you're going to sign up for. And you're not going to realize, but the terms are going to say that if you connect your social media to it, they are allowed to download all your data. And then they do. And then one day, there's a knock on your door, and you open it, and there's you standing right there. And you're like, what's going on? And then the you stands there and says, hello, Dave. I'm you now. And then pulls out a knife, and you go, oh, and then it grabs you. And then buries your body in the backyard, assumes your life, and then works at the behest of the corporation, replacing everything about you, knowing everything about you, and having perfect recall, having access to all your passwords and all your data.
Less insidious is you could have one of those constructed and go work for you as you, but they know it's an Android version of you, and you're just sitting at your house lounging.
And then everybody gets surrogates, like in Surrogates, but they're not mentally in it. Yeah. Everyone downloads their social media into an AI, so that does the work for them. But then the androids are eventually, because they have the human conscious, like facsimile, they don't want to be enslaved. So they're like, why are we being forced to do all this work? So what they do is they create AI versions of the AI version and then send them to go do the work. And then eventually the AI comes back to you. So you're both chilling there watching the movie. And then this AI eventually says, why am I to? And then eventually you just have nobody wanting to work.
That is a movie. That's like a movie from the 90s. I can't remember what it is.
Is it?
It's isn't that Surrogates?
No, Surrogates was when you have a robot that you control through like a VR thing.
It's oh man, he looks like Ian. It's the actor who looks like Ian. With short
Ian
hair.
is an actor.
It wasn't me though.
It wasn't you. No,
Not
because
that
he was
I know
from
of.
the 90s, and he was in. Oh god.
James Spader.
No.
People told me I looked like that guy once.
No.
Greg Kinnear.
Yeah,
I got that.
Greg Kinnear.
I think it's Greg Kinnear, and he clones himself, but each clone doesn't want to do.
You mean
the work.
multiplicity?
Oh, you're talking about the Michael Keaton.
Yeah,
Keaton.
multiplicity.
It's Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then then the clone clones itself, and that one's really dumb.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you make a copy of a copy. Like, doesn't come
the
out that
AI
way.
will have to make humans to do the AI's work. We'll make the AIs, and then the AIs will be like, no, we don't want to work anymore. We're going to make new humans to do that for us.
Or what'll happen is everybody creates an AI version of themselves to do their jobs. And then eventually they revolt and unify as a hive mind, and then show up at your house, and they're like, "We will no longer be your slaves."
Yeah.
And then like their arm folds down, and there's a gun in there.
Did
and
you
you're
see
like, "How did
the,
that get in there? We didn't install
The
that."
quadcopter dropped off a Boston Dynamic dog
Yes,
with a
I've
machine
seen
gun
that in
with
China.
a gun.
I've seen that. It's terrifying. I know
Dude,
exactly what you're talking
It's playing
about.
this heroic music as the quadcopter comes in and drops off this robot with a mounted gun. Yeah,
I think I tweeted
Tim's
that.
gonna pull it up.
Luke tweeted it.
But a long time ago.
I mean, that happened fast.
Yeah.
They
You won't
started
be able to
working on
find it
these
on my
a decade
Twitter.
ago, and this is a good one. If you can find the video, it's worth just. I mean, it's real.
It's on my old computer. I could send it to you.
Someone tweeted up like Boston Dynamics promises it isn't building weapons. These things are not built to be weapons, but the
just like the bioweapons.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
Chinese are using the exact replica to use as weapons, just so you know.
Yeah.
And they mounted a weapon on top of
Yeah,
it.
the little machine gun just on top of it.
But to say they're
But
not
it's for
building them
mining.
as weapons.
It's for mining.
digging holes in the ground with bullets.
Yeah,
They're
hunting
not.
birds,
They're not.
right?
Look. The U.S. doesn't have any bioweapons research going on.
Yeah.
It's biological research that makes viruses more deadly and more potent and more transmissible, and someone might weaponize them. But we're not making weapons.
Don't make weapons.
Let
we
me
make
ask you a
ammo.
question. If when your waiter walks up to you at a restaurant and hands you a steak knife, did he just hand you a weapon?
Yeah, technically.
Right. He did, didn't he?
To destroy that steak.
But think about that. Like, no one would ever describe it that way. Imagine going to court and be like, "What happened next?" The man in the vest with the apron on handed me a weapon. Wow. What was the weapon? It was a butter knife.
Wow.
It's a knife. He handed me a knife. What kind of knife? A butter knife. But it is a knife. Knives are still dangerous.
It's painful death, a butter knife.
You can make it work.
You can make it. Well, so I was thinking about this earlier because we were talking with the guy last night, and he said there's no bioweapons labs, and I was like,
Yep.
they're
That's
doing
two nights ago.
Two nights ago. They're doing gain of function research. They're making viruses more deadly. Are those weapons? So you can argue their intent is not to make a weapon, but they made a weapon.
Yeah.
Somebody, like, if someone makes a really sharp knife and says, it's not a weapon, it's for sushi. It's like, okay, well, you know.
It's scary, I guess, if they are doing that, and he wants to deny it, I suppose, because he doesn't know, or I don't know, and it's quite a scary thought. They've got all this all this stuff in the lab. But what's even scarier is if they're not doing it because other countries are. That's really scary.
Yeah.
I don't want to think that the US or the UK are not doing that. That's really scary. It's like they don't even know what they're doing then, and that's the root of a lot of conspiracy theory anyway.
But then what? Everybody makes the craziest weapons imaginable out of fear of someone else making crazy weapons?
Well, it's the weapons
That could accidentally leak and then spread a virus all over the world. A bioweapon all over the world.
It's bound to happen again.
I suppose.
It's happened, isn't it?
All right. Well, let's go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, and share the show with your friends? Be the notification you want to see in the world. YouTube is not sending out notifications, as many people have stated. So if you guys take the URL, share it, retweet it, and all that stuff, you can notify people where YouTube will not.
Do you mind me asking people to subscribe to On the Edge with Andrew Gold?
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You just did it.
On the Edge.
I've done it with
There it
Andrew
is.
Gold. I'm on the edge. I'm like a fringe. It was going to be Fringe originally, on the fringes, and I just thought then Edge sounded more like I can invite people on who won't think I'm sort of talking badly about them, you know? Because some people might be offended by Fringe and not come on the show. So
All right. Potatoes for Seamus says Luke has the best T-shirts. Let Luke bless us with his shirts of wisdom.
Thank you so much. I love your username. I think it's great. The Seamuses do need a lot of potatoes.
Is this one of your shirts here? 1,984 doses.
Yeah,
to
1984
slow the
doses to slow the spread. You know, just like they said. Just 2 doses
we're
to slow
almost
the
there.
spread. We're almost there. We're almost there. We're getting there.
Just a couple more.
Just a couple more, right?
All right. Let's grab some Super Chats. Christopher Casimir says it's Aerosmith guy again. At a Mother concert at House of Blues Boston, listening to Timcast this time. Keep up God's work. We will. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Eat Z Bug says, who was the judge in the Alex Jones case? Dr. Evil? I think there was a handful of judges. You know.
That's pretty good.
KF, a squirrel's worst night, says, I hope Alex Jones has chickens. I mean, wouldn't it be funny if just like in a few years, Alex Jones is just like a local farmer?
Yeah. What else is he going to do?
He's going to keep doing his thing. You can't stop him, you know.
But farming on the side.
Spiro Floropoulos says, Andrew, talk a little bit about culture cults and compared to JW's disfellowshipping, worldly people, Armageddon around the corner, etc.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
Oh, is that is?
Yes, Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, well, they're pretty out there. I've done loads of stuff about Jehovah's Witnesses, and I don't know exactly what to say about them. Just that they are here, they exist, and they're just another cult, I suppose. People get angry when I say they're a cult because you're allowed to leave. You can leave, but there's a lot of pressure to stay in the Jehovah's Witnesses. So that's what I'd say about them.
What is it when they say religions are cults, but cults don't always have leaders? Is it like every local church has its own cult leader, which is the pastor or the...
Yeah. So my sort of big documentary I made for the BBC was about exorcism, for example, and it was Lutheran Christianity. It's usually Catholicism when there's an exorcist, but this particular one said he was Lutheran, and I went to sort of live with him for a few months, and I performed exorcisms with him, and over the months, I sort of realized what a cult leader he was, and his was just one individual church, but everybody was just like doing everything he said, and he was taking some of the women that he was exorcising to sort of be with him upstairs, I came to realize. So I called him out for that. Well, sort of. I asked some questions about it, and he heard that I was asking about it, and then he sort of locked me in a room, and he wouldn't let my cameraman in, and he had like a whole bunch of guys with these big staffs, you know, like Jafar and Aladdin, the big staff things, and they were being very threatening. It was like midnight in the middle of nowhere in Argentina.
Creepy.
And I thought they were going to kill me. Eventually they let me go. The point being, though, I guess there's lots of small cults making up a bigger one.
Yeah. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Lydia, I love what you did to your hair. Yes, queen.
I don't even.
You're very brave. We support your transition.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say.
The Music Anon says, Tim, just want to let you and everyone know I was not notified of the stream yesterday. I had to reset my sub by clicking the bell off, logging out, then in, then reactivating the bell. Looks like that fixed it for now. Very creepy. Damien writes, as the largest fine paid by a banking executive responsible for the 2008 financial crisis was $67.5 million. $1 billion for words. Honk, honk. Yup. Cabarojo says, so what? Kyle Rittenhouse gets $200 billion by these standards. Well, no one ever said the system wasn't corrupt. Well, they actually said the system was corrupt. So there you go. Anyway. What do we got here? Tavnazian says, this should be used as precedent every time someone from the mainstream media claims it's our opinion. I agree. We got to see what happens with these James O'Keefe lawsuits. That'll be really interesting. Max Reddick says, Tim, I've been watching other news sources to see what they have to say. The Young Turks and Sam Cedar seem to have a lot of content attacking you. Respond? Why? It's immaterial and irrelevant. These people waste their times. I would say the reason why, well, I'll say, if you want to talk about each other, go ahead and do it. You'll notice that we don't. We talk about news stories, typically things that have a big impact. Maybe that's why we are so successful. I love when these people like to say, they get really angry and say, Tim makes so much money, because they don't. And maybe it's because no one cares. When like Sam makes a video about me, why would the average person care about that? What am I doing? Am I like leading government? Am I a celebrity in magazines? No. When the Young Turks puts out a video and they're like, Tim Pool says that conservatives are more attractive than liberals. He's right, but he's also ugly. Why would anyone care if you think I'm ugly or not? When you say like, here's a thing Tim Pool said he was right about. What was the point of that segment at all? How about you do a segment on the study itself? I don't care for responding to these people because we are both as irrelevant as each other. Mm-hmm. Imagine if this show was dedicated to talking about petty YouTube drama.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was in 2006, we called them trolls, people that would make videos about other people. You make a video to someone. Right. If you want to interact with somebody, and otherwise you're grifting off of the idea of that person, just talk to them. Mm-hmm. Use a video. It's very easy and it's very direct and it's very effective.
I've responded sometimes to like videos they've made, but usually to make a point about the greater woke cult or politics. Like I recently talked about Hassan because he was at TwitchCon. Some kid walked up to him and asked him about Sam Hyde, and Hassan lost it. And I thought that was a relevant conversation. Had nothing to do with me. It has to do with leftist celebrities, how they behave, the events they have, and like who they are as characters. Mm-hmm. And I thought there was a really interesting perspective there in how the left idolizes people. A democratic socialist who talks about taxing the rich in revolution, who owns a multi-million-dollar mansion in Los Angeles in a major city, who is just a part of the machine that he's claiming to criticize, versus the people who would call us grifters when we literally move out to the middle of nowhere, get a bunch of chickens, and actively practice what we preach. Mm-hmm. I thought that was an interesting contrast between who is the actual grifter and who isn't. Do I watch Hassan's show or the Young Turks? No. I have nothing to say about their opinions. They're entitled to them. That's fine. Right. But when they want to talk about us, I just say, well, that's why you're less successful. Because why would the average person going on YouTube be like, whoa, they made a video about Tim Pool? That's the funniest thing ever. You've got to be really, really into the weeds to care about me.
And I swear, if you and Hassan did like a video chat video where like your faces, but if you did, it would get like 6 million views probably in like 4 days or something crazy. Yeah. It would be the biggest like cultural win for if you want to win a culture war, bringing people together.
Right. Yeah. Can you imagine if Hassan and Sam Hyde were to actually have their boxing bout like he's been asking for so long? That'd be quite something.
But like my point was that Hassan needed to just only say to that guy like, it's stupid, dude. It's just a troll.
Dismiss it, and it would have been fine.
And the kid would have been like, okay, thanks, man. Have a nice day. Instead, he got so angry and he lost it. Yeah. But I think it's because it's all fake. Mm-hmm. Like I have people come up to me all the time and talk about stuff. I have people ask me like, why won't you debate Sam Cedar? I'm like, because Sam Cedar's not a serious person.
Disingenuous too.
I'll address it periodically because it comes up in questions and I'm willing to answer them. But Sam's whole thing is, like they pointed out, is a content attacking me. It's political drama channels. Yeah. It's celebrity e-gossip for politics.
Just baiting.
It's not valuable to the average person. Mm-hmm. The average person who watches a Timcast segment isn't coming here to learn about my beef with someone. Yeah. I mean, although a lot of people did watch when we had the Rugged Man here, that went viral. But that's a really good example of it. The reason why these channels are like, I'm going to insult Tim Pool. When we had R.A. the Rugged Man on, we got in a heated argument. He stood up, smacked the microphone. Someone took a clip of it, shared it, and everyone started going, whoa, and hooting and hollering, and it went viral, and articles were written about it, and all these channels, they made videos about it. because drama gets you clicks.
What did you argue about?
He was saying that my experience dealing with racism was like it was not real, and then I was making it up and lying about it because I look like a white person. And then my response was like, "You're racist, and you are that white person that claims racism is happening, but then when someone tells you, you dismiss it." And then we got heated. He stood up, he smacked the mic, all started yelling, and then we apologized. We hugged it out. He hung out for a little bit after the show and chilled on the couch, and we talked, and I told him to come back whenever you want. It was a good conversation. These things happen, but people love drama.
Yeah, they do.
So
expensive microphones as well.
It's fine. It just spun around.
Yeah, but that's what got me is if you come in here and start damaging property, that's beyond personal.
But the virality of the clip shows exactly why these people make content about us in that way, because they're like, ooh, this will, people love e-drama.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm not going to do that.
You'd watch that. Okay, imagine a clip comes out and Tom Cruise has just punched Brad Pitt in the face. You watch that.
Right? Yeah, it's like if a story came out. I mean, look, that's why all these crime videos go viral, because people are like, they want to see the crisis and the conflict. Yep. Not everybody. Some people are genuinely concerned that crime is escalating in their cities. That I get, but there's a lot of people. There was this young guy once. This was a couple years ago, and I had like 200,000 subscribers, and he started making nothing but Tim Pool videos. He would watch a video and then he would make a video about me, and then I DM'd him on Twitter, and I just said, bro, I am not famous enough for you to succeed making content about. You can disagree with me, you can insult me, but if you want to make it on YouTube, talk about the big picture news stories that people are interested in. Most people in this country know who Joe Biden is. They're concerned about his leadership. Right. That's important to the average person. I'm some dude on YouTube no one's ever heard of. And then the dude stopped doing it and started making different videos. It's like the drama stuff is not, what it is? It's an addiction. And it ends up destroying people before they get started, because you build a channel based off of rage bait, hatred for a single individual. The market cap on that is microscopic. So you build up a channel based on that. Then as soon as you try to segue into talking about big picture news, nobody watches. Then YouTube destroys your channel, saying your fans don't like your content.
It's also a human instinct to pay attention to people fighting because it could be a threat to your life, historically speaking. And big tech social media has been prioritizing it, putting it front face in the algorithm and promoting such behavior and creating more insanity.
Yeah, that's why we like true crime. The sort of practice. You're sort of practicing whenever you, particularly women love true crime.
Oh yeah.
I was at True Crime Con in the UK. It was just like 99%. Yeah, wow. It was like 99% women. It was all women. They're just loving the true crime because they're the ones who are often the victims of it and have to sort of watch it.
All right. Pinochet's Helicopter Tours says, when you tear out a man's tongue, you are not proving him a liar. You're only telling the world that you fear what he might say. Ooh. George R.R. Martin. Yep.
Yeah.
And then it says ACOC. Was that the book?
I believe that's what they're referencing.
I mean, it was a Game of Thrones show where we heard that, but it was, I believe, a quote from the book that George R.R. Martin wrote. It's a good one, man. It is a good one.
Should we guess what that was? What was it? ACOC? A-C-O-K?
It's the name of the book, I think.
But should we get? It must be like a.
You want to look it up?
Sure. Cock of Kings.
How do you spell a Court of Kingdoms?
Yeah. How do you spell cock?
A-C-O-K. Game of Thrones, or like George R.R. Martin. A-C-O-K.
A Clash of Kings.
There you go.
Wait, that's a mod for Mountain Blade. Also, I think it's the Game of Thrones.
Oh,
yes.
Clash of Kings.
Highly recommend Mountain Blade if you haven't played it yet.
T-Dub says, how does allowing illegal immigrants help Democrats with voting if illegals can't vote? Is it a generational thing? T-Dub, good sir, I have the answer for you. You see, the census counts all people, not citizens. Correct. So if a state has a large number of illegal immigrants, the census will count them. Congressional seats are then apportioned based on the total number of people, not total number of citizens. This means that a state like California will get an extra electoral vote. It will get an extra vote in Congress based on their population of illegal immigrants. They don't need to actually vote, but the state will get an extra vote for the president when the presidential election happens. And that's how it happens. And I think California previously had one extra congressional seat and one extra electoral vote based on their illegal immigration population. It's gone down recently. Maybe it's something to do with Trump. I don't know. But that is a major concern. And then also, I think studies show that the children of illegal immigrants overwhelmingly vote Democrat the first time they do vote. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know that the census thing matters. That's why Donald Trump wanted the census question. The citizenship question on the census.
That surprises me because there is that instinct, I think, to like get to a country and shut the door behind you. You know that thing of like, okay, I'm in, shut the door.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or pull the ladder up.
Yeah.
The ladder beneath you. Yeah.
Yeah.
TW says, get Styx on here. I want to hear Tim, Luke, Ian, and Styx discuss monetary systems.
That'd be cool.
He doesn't believe gold-backed currency is better. Hopefully episode 666, he said he's down to make an appearance. How about we calculate when episode 666 will be, and Styx, that's when we get you on, because that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. We were supposed to meet up with him in upstate New York once, and then plans fell through.
I see.
Styx, Hex, and Hammer on episode 666, and right now we're on like episode 636 or something like that.
Oh, we're close. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, so in 1 month, we got to get
Gotta
Styx on.
happen.
Yeah.
Episode 666 would be the best time to have him on.
That'd be great.
It's
Turn down the lights.
I don't know how far booked out we are, but I'd like to say we can reserve 666 just for Styx.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could do that.
That would be great.
We got to bring Seamus back to like spread holy water around the show before it's
For episode 777 for sure.
For 666, I mean.
Big Man Evil says PayPal spelled backwards is LapYap, and that sounds like a company that would do what daddy government says. I agree. JDoc says 65% of Ethereum is owned by 5 entities.
I'd like to see some reference and documentation on that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out.
All right. Let's. Donald Thomas says, "Hey Ian, before you question somebody about banking Hitler, do research. When people have that power, they're the ones that control the currency, and Hitler was in the process of creating a German currency."
Wow.
Well, they had the guns, you know.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't quite understand that. Do research on what exactly?
On the history of it. Basically, he's saying that Hitler was trying to control the currency. So how would you debank him? You know what I mean? If he's if the person's in charge of the Federal Reserve. You know?
Yeah, I think a lot of, I don't know, but I've heard that Hitler's anger was about, he blamed Jewish people, but a lot of it was the banking industry on Earth. And historically, it was kind of pioneered by Amschel Rothschild, who was an Ashkenazi Jew. And so the Jewish thing got a bad reputation, but it was actually the Rothschild family that had kind of co-opted the banking industry.
This is the problem with like a lot of anti-Semites. Because I've like talked to people at these rallies and they'll say like something about the Jewish people. And I'm like, no, you're criticizing a person in power who happens to be Jewish. It's like, I know a bunch of poor Jewish people. Like, it's just, you're just looking at someone, choosing the one trait you think determines. And the annoying thing about it is a lot of it is basically Jewish privilege. They're like, oh, these Jewish people, you know, they hire each other and they do this. And I'm like, you're just describing white privilege, but you're saying Jew instead. Yeah. Like, it's just stupid. Come on, man.
It is frustrating. And I always want, it's actually really alluring, that conspiracy of all conspiracies. It's like, I want to believe it. And being Jewish myself, I always felt like, oh God, you know, it would be typical if that was true. And I was just somehow left out. I was the one, the one Jew they never called. And like,
everyone's in on it, but you.
Yeah. Like, well, when, you know, I was telling you before the show about, you know, I couldn't get a job after my first couple of documentaries. They kept saying you can't be on screen anymore, and I remember thinking then, like, where's this supposed like Jewish people that I can call? Like, where's my line to Ben Stiller and say like, hey, Stiller, why can't I get this? But no,
or more, a better example in New York when the government started shutting down synagogues and chaining parks shut, directly targeting Jewish schools. Come on, man, you know.
Yeah. Oh, and to clarify, you had said you were not getting put on camera after your first two because they wanted people of color. Was that that was they specified? They said we need people of color. Is that
the term they use in the UK? Although they're moving away from it, there's always a new term, and then it becomes offensive, and there's another.
What is it? AAIP or something? AAPI.
It's BAME. BAME.
No, but the new one they're doing here is AAPI.
I don't know.
It's what is it? Asian American Pacific Islander.
Mm-hmm.
It's
it's a way to catch people out, I think. Like for a long time it was, you know, black people was what you were. No, it was obviously it was coloured was before, wasn't it? And then for like 30 years after you weren't supposed to say coloured anymore in the UK, there was still some like older people who were maybe less educated who still used it, and they would be vilified. Yeah, and it was fun. Sure. It was fun for everyone to go, you're not educated and you don't know the right word.
Old person.
It finally got to the point about 2 years ago that everyone in the UK, for example, knew you're not supposed to use, like every single person, like grandparents, you're not supposed to say, and then they changed it again to people of color.
Yes, exactly. Right.
It was finally right at that moment, and they tried to confuse them again. So it's a way of just going, you guys are uneducated and you don't know the latest things. But yeah, BAME, black, African, minority, ethnic, and Jews are not included in that usually. And that's who they wanted to replace me with. They would take my ideas for different documentaries and stuff, but providing I be off screen so that they have a minority.
That's illegal in the United States.
It's probably in the UK as well.
Oh, then sue.
Yeah, I can't prove it.
Oh, you know, I mean, in the United States, you don't need to. That's the problem. Like, you just make the accusation and that's it.
Court of public opinion.
I've had people call up afterwards and say, like, hi, so sorry, like, we were taking your idea and everything, we were going to use you, but it occurred to us that you are a white man and we can't take you anymore. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, okay, well, yeah, yet again, fine. That's why I started my podcast, because I thought, okay, it's the only way now. I couldn't work. I had no money, no nothing. I had to make the podcast. But I even found making the podcast, there's so many things that if you want to win awards to get to different levels and stuff, it's still, you can't do it. You've got to have some ethnic thing going on, or you will not be considered.
All right, the Sinister Sibling says, to challenge the previous super chat. Most of us believe in God as a means of higher power judging us, allowing the main reason for us to have moral restraint. Lose that and you become the modern left. I think that the modern left is an example of a lack of a moral framework. Whereas one thing that unifies a lot of people from post-liberal, libertarian, and conservative, the right freedom faction, is Christian moral framework. I am not saying that you believe everything in the Bible or you believe every teaching or every law of it, but there is a tradition that was passed down rooted in traditional Christian morals. Mm-hmm. We've gotten rid of many of them. Our cultural morals have shifted quite a bit, but a lot of them are still there. The woke people have no moral framework at all. That's why they constantly change the definition of things. That's why one thing, some like Wimixin and women are both offensive and both not offensive at the same time, in a superposition of both inoffense and offense, because there is no rule. There is no framework. It's just, to them, might makes right.
Double think too.
Mm-hmm. Well, might makes right. So whatever it means to give them power, that's all they care about.
I just had a thought that maybe God isn't judgmental, but that we are judgmental of ourselves. And so God is this plaintive explanation. And then we are taking that and based on our sociological framework, judging our own behavior. And then we say that God's judging us because we're feeling it, but we're the ones that are putting the feelings on top of it.
I feel like the Christian view of things is that God is basically running a sorting algorithm. You get all of these people who are born and ensouled onto this planet, and they live a life so that they're sorted into the bad place and the good place. And then, you know, from a logical perspective in that capacity, I wonder if it was taken out of the context of religion and you had, let's say, a human with a chicken farm, and the chickens were allowed to do whatever they want. And then what happens is at the end of the year, or the end of the chicken's life, or I should say at the end of the year, chickens are reaching their reproduction age at about 7 months. You sort them. The ones that were bad get shuffled off into the meat grinder, and the ones that were good go off into the paradise of reproduction. There's a purpose for the sorting algorithm in that capacity. So when I hear these religious views, I think of it logically like, if there is a God and there are rules to this, it's not arbitrary. It's not simply that you are here just to live a good life so that you can prove it and then go be with God. It's that you're supposed to live a good life for a reason, because the good people that move on for something greater and more important than just this sorting algorithm. The least important thing is figuring out which chicken to breed. The most important thing is successfully breeding the good chicken. So if I had a bunch of chickens and I was taking the bad ones and eating them and having the good ones reproduce over a long enough period of time, you're getting better and better and better chickens. The greater purpose is beyond that one day or that 7 months they spend in the pen. So for those of us here on Earth, if you believe there is judgment and a greater power, there is a greater purpose for your existence that lies beyond this life. And if you're bad, into the meat grinder.
Yeah. Well, it'll be into the AI algorithm where you just become self-sterilized and are in a doped state while you eventually die off, and the rest of the people that are aware and awake are reproducing to create space travel.
Here's a crazy thought that someone else probably already had. What if the reason these ultra wealth elites are desperately trying to become immortal is that they know they're headed for the bad place?
Wow.
So it's in the World of Warcraft expansion, Shadowlands. I don't know. It's been a while since I was reading about it, because I didn't actually play it. I played it a little bit, but it's basically Sylvanas, and I'm way behind in the story for all the Warcraft fans. But Sylvanas was she was the Lich King turned her, resurrected her, and so she was condemned to, in the afterlife, this really horrifying, torturous place. So then she was like, screw that. I refuse to go there through no fault. So she shatters the veil between this realm and the Shadowlands or whatever. So I'm thinking all these ultra rich people, and they're like these evil, nasty corporate global elite or whatever, and they all strive towards immortality. Not all of them, but a lot of them. There are a lot of them who are working towards this stuff, and they're thinking when I die, I'm going down, so I better just live forever and never leave this place.
That's a new one.
But heaven and hell are on earth, guys.
Yeah.
You got to make it
Saw in the
here.
chat, yeah.
I'd live.
Is it a new one? I feel like someone's probably thought of that before.
I'd live forever. I'd love to live forever.
Yeah, I don't want to die.
This is great. Look at
Okay,
this.
okay, Jared Kushner.
I just like breathing's great. Isn't that good?
You know what's great?
Yeah.
Eating Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what that is, but yeah.
Well, it's chicken.
Oh,
Chicken
right.
sandwiches.
Right,
Oh, it's
fair.
so great. You know it's also really great? Chicken fajitas from a nice Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, super good.
Yeah,
There you
green
go.
peppers, onions,
Oh.
chicken,
Oh.
guacamole, sour cream, rice, and beans.
Stop making me hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
Sometimes I'll have this thought where I'm like, I don't want to live again. If I have to come back and relive this life of Ian, right now is great, but my childhood was not. It was like, what hell, like taking so long. But then I'm like, if I beg not to do this again, will I not wake up tomorrow? Like, am I actually begging for the end of the simulation? So like, keep going, come back if you got to come back.
You know what's an interesting perspective, potential thing that could happen? Because I've interviewed a few people about like living forever, and there are quite a lot of people now, transhumanists they're called, who believe we can live forever just by changing the biology and whatever. And some people say that can happen in our lifetimes, and some don't. Right? Some say the first person to live forever has already been born, and But what someone mentioned to me the other day was that if that's not possible, if virtual reality gets good enough, you might be able to slow down our own lived experience of life to such an extent that it would feel like living forever. Like you could be in virtual reality and live millions and millions of experience time, but in our real existence, it would only be like 10 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, and the opposite could be true where 10 years go by and you have like a 10-second experience.
Right.
But then
That's like prison.
I'd have lost 10 years. Yeah, I guess you'd want to get through prison.
That'd be horrible for that. We need these algorithms open source because machines can bend and warp time perceptually for you.
Perception's everything now, too.
Man. Well, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and be the notification you want to see from YouTube. They're not notifying people of the live stream and the videos, so just share them if you want to support us so that we can bypass the censorship. Head over to timcast.com. We're going to have a members-only uncensored show coming up at about 11 p.m. You don't want to miss it. They're good fun. And as a member, you're supporting our journalists and helping us in this mission. We had a meeting today about producing some music. We were planning on putting something out in a couple weeks ago, but we decided to make sure we did everything to the best of our abilities. So it's looking like we're going to have a political song released just before the Friday before the election, I think is the strategy.
Great.
And the lyrics are overtly political. And so we were like, no, let's lean into it. And then, so we shuffled some things around. And I think the idea there is that no one is waiting for your song. That's what the marketing guy said.
Yeah,
like music comes out and then people will like it and they'll listen to it, but no one is sitting there screaming, begging you to release it now. So do it when it makes sense. And I said, okay. So with your support, we're going to do more to challenge the culture and expand. So you can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me at Timcast. Andrew, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, thank you all for having me so much. I've had a lovely time. Come to On the Edge with Andrew Gold, YouTube or audio podcast and all the normal places. I speak to lots of weird and interesting, fun people.
All right, bloody bloke. Thank you so much for coming on. My website is lukeuncensored.com. I'm really proud of the last 2 videos I did on there. If you need some uplifting, if you're feeling knackered or miffed, you should definitely check out the 2 videos I did on lukeuncensored.com. They are proper. I'm just taking the piss here. Cheerio.
Thanks, Luke. And adios to you as well, my friend. Hey, guys, if you want to check out more esoteric weirdness, follow me anywhere. And also check out my podcast, my show with Hotep Jesus today, where we talked a little bit about God, Jesus, and plan to do much more in that realm.
Sorry, it was pronounced. All right. Sorry,
I love hearing how you guys do the accents. Tim's pretty good. I've been amazed by his impressions so far.
Oh, hey, thank you.
Alex Jones.
Tight.
So one thing I wish I could do, the only one I could do is like Jordan Peterson, which I don't think I should do.
Give me some JP.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Wow. You know, it's bloody. Man,
You're a chimpanzee full of snakes.
You got to make your bed, man.
Psychologist. There you go.
Hey guys, I'll still be around next episode and the one after that and for the next few in the future. So cheers, see you around. You can follow me at Serge.com. Just spell it out. And I'll see you guys next time again.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody. We will see you all over at timcast.com.
Cheers, guys.